Hello. Uh, I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't think so. Infinite Craft go crazy. I don't know what that is. I saw your message a minute ago, but my day is loaded. I'm doing laundry right now. I'm waiting for that shit to go off in like 10 minutes, and then I gotta go get it. So, hold on. Yeah, okay, good. Sure. I want to make sure that that's also good. I actually don't need that. Hold on. Never mind. Alright, that's fine. This game you start with earth, water, wind, and fire and combine them to make new things. A concept done 100 times, but this one is AI assisted. Interesting. That sounds like that sand game. You know the one from fucking from middle school, high school, where you played with like particles and shit in the browser based. What was it? Was it just called Sand or something? I don't even remember. It probably was just called some Sand or something, like something very simple like that. Anyway, um, no idea. I played Doodle God. What the fuck? Anyway, I've got a small announcement to make. I know exactly the browser game you're talking about. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. I don't think I know. I know. I don't think Doodle God was one of them. I think fucking it was called just like Friend or Friendship or something, or Buddy. Might have been called Buddy, or Internet Buddy or something. Or you had like the little gray guy, and you could like pick him up and throw him and stab him and fucking launch grenades at him, and that was what we did. And that was what we did. That's what we did to occupy our fucking time. Wild. Uh. Anyway, we got a bit of a. I think we got an ad break going on presently. Um. Not that we have a particularly. Not that I'm expecting any non-subs to be here at the moment, but I do have a thing that I want to talk about. But I want to talk about specifically, non-subscribers. It's complicated. It's not complicated. It's simple, but I have to stall for time. That's what I need to do. Uh, I don't know. I'm not sure what to talk about. I've had a lot. I've had a lot of stuff going on in my brain today. I woke up, got some breakfast, and I went shopping. Because I'm going to WeebCon at the end of March, and I am planning on doing cosplay, or at least one cosplay, and I have yet to start said cosplay. I have yet to start working on it, so I woke up and I was like, man, I don't have work today. I don't have to stream till late. I gotta like get started on this. So I went out. I spent a couple hours looking around for stuff, and I found some pants and a belt. And that's it. Um, it'll be fine. Uh, the other thing is that I've got two other cosplays that I kind of want to do, but I'm not entirely sure if I want to do them at all, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to have the time to do them because I got to order like wigs and costume parts and stuff, and I don't think they're going to get here in time, if I'm being totally honest. So it might just be the one secret cosplay um, that I've been planning for months. or nothing at all. Who's not? Who knows? Another thing I was doing was working on printing business cards, or sourcing business cards. I'm gonna wait until a little bit closer to the actual convention to print out the business cards because I'm planning on. WeebCon's gonna be the most important business trip of my life. I'm gonna make it so that I have passing business cards out to everybody and try and get more people in here because it's a convention. That's what it's for, right? It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be the trip of a lifetime. But yeah, I was sourcing some of that and trying to figure out how to do it and designing it and thinking about it and all that jazz. And then I've been doing laundry. I've been doing other maintenance type stuff today. So I've been going and going and going since I got up this morning. Now we're here. So, and I'm still doing the laundry, which I'm gonna have to go check on. But before I do, let me introduce you guys to a little thing I was working on a couple hours ago, and should be set up now. Look, it's you. You've all been randomly assigned avatars. Welcome to Stream Avatars. If you're on desktop and you scroll down, you can select your avatar. They shouldn't cost you any points. They have their own like currency. Why am I Ruffle Lamau? Oh, look at it. It says why am I Rockruff? Because they were randomly assigned whenever you showed up. Oh no, I'm bipedal. Currently, he is the only one not a Pokemon. Can you guess what character that is? You can't really tell because I think I think her fucking outfit is the same color as the background. Because I'm not allowed to have nice things. that's fucking Selkie from Fire Emblem Fates. I kind of wanted to restrict it to just Pokemon, but I didn't want to put anybody in that box. So yeah, we've got stream avatars now. I'll probably expand on that eventually, but I wanted to have a cool little interactive thing. It's subs only, so anybody walks in and wants to be a Pokemon, you gotta give me money for it. We've also got a couple Digimon and a couple other Fire Emblem characters. They're all wolves and foxes for the time being, because it takes a long time to kind of curate which sprites I want to have down there. And also, if they're not in the Steam Workshop, then I have to like import them myself, which is going to be a task and a half. So I'm going to go check on the laundry real quick and leave you guys to fuck around with your avatars. There should be commands that you can do, like exclamation point battle royale or exclamation point fucking fight or bomb or whatever. I haven't had a whole lot of time to play around with it because it mostly was like setting it up. But yeah, so give me a few minutes, have fun, and don't explode. I'm back, don't panic. Man, it's rough going up and down all those stairs. Holy shit. Anyway, don't mind me. I'm just gonna make some gamer subs real quick over here in my my little corner. So, did you see Gamer Soups? I did. I heard about it. Yeah, I didn't manage. I know Cinder did a stream where she like showed him off, sampled him. I didn't catch the stream, but I saw some screenshots, and the noodles are colored. That weirds me out, dude. I'm sure it's fine, it tastes normal, but like that looks grotesque. Like I don't like it. You know what it looks like? It looks like fucking Star Wars food. It's like the blue milk. That's what it looks like. That's so strange. Anyway, if you guys are on mobile, I don't know if you can change your avatars. If you have any requests, I could probably do that for you manually. Like, Tobias, if you don't want to be a small Rockruff. And Krim, if you don't want to be bipedal. Although you are a fucking a shiny Mega Lucario. That's gotta be that's a rare roll. Like, that's pretty sick, not gonna lie. I do want to change Hiei. I don't know what to change him into, but having 3 Pokemon and then Selkie from Fire Emblem Fates, that's something's not right here. What if we make him... What? Oh, it has every... How does it have every fucking one of them in here? It's got everything in here. Alright, fucking... There you go. You get to be a Mighty Anna now. Because I said so. There it is. Now we got a bunch of Pokemon. All of these are sourced from the Steam Workshop, so wherever the users got them from who made it originally, that'll be that. That's why I think the Mighty Anna's got more. Hold on. Windows, don't bother me with shit like that. Fucking yeah, the Mighty Anna's got more like idle animations than the other Pokemon because they're sourced from a different user. Not a super big deal, and you guys I'll open up more customizable options in the future. I just wanted to set it up because it's something that I've had since forever ago and I never used. And then I just I don't know, I thought about it today and I was like, huh, why don't I see about that and set up something with that. So I think if you like do that, yeah, I planted a bomb. Yeah, oh. There you go. It works. It works like a charm. Anyway, you can also... There you go. Where we dropping, boys? Now attack. This needs, like, doom music or something. Hold on. It's absolutely not fucking worth the joke, but I'm doing it anyway. Is that fucking... What? What is that? That's a fucking health drop. Oh, I'm not looking too hot. I'm fucking dead. This is an epic battle. Holy shit. He turned around on him. Terra Tobias is the victor. Congratulations, a winner is you. Oh my goodness. Gilgamesh has returned. And he walked in the door and dropped to 5 gift subs. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Gilgamesh. You've been randomly assigned to become an Eevee. If you wanna, I don't know if you're on desktop or mobile. You should be able to change it if you scroll down. If you're on desktop, if you have any requests, I can go ahead and do that manually for you. This is still not fixed. I don't know how to set it to do the thing to stop fucking doing them one at a time. So well, that's okay. If you have a request, I don't have a whole lot. I've got like basically any wolf or fox-ish Pokemon. I've got a couple of, I've got like the fucking Garurumon shit, and I've got a couple of basically any pick a Pokemon. I'll see if we got him. I can Ninetales. I could do a Ninetales. We'll change you. There you go. You're a Ninetales now. Congratulations, you've evolved. How you evolved from the Eevee, Ninetales from an Eevee, I will never know, but we're not gonna worry about it. You got a Robin? You know what? I think I do actually. That's not you're not gonna be on theme, but can I do that? No? Oh, because it's not in this. It's not loaded in this profile. That's why. I broke the laws of evolution. Okay, so I can't. It's not loaded. The only Fire Emblem characters I have loaded in here are Selkie and Valoria, and because they're of their they can transform thing, because they're wolf-esque. Fox is wolf-esque. So I can gift you the ability to. It's a little complicated. I can cope with you can cope with Mega Lucario. You can pick a different Pokemon. It is a shiny Mega Lucario. Again, that's like, what are the odds of that? Probably 1 in like 50, depending on how many things I've got. But actually, no, because the shiny is like a sub thing, a sub option. So the fact that you're shiny Mega Lucario is actually kind of rare. But yeah, we'll work on that as time goes on. We'll curate a profile, as it were, of avatars. Anyway, yeah, so I just want to show that off a little bit, give you guys a little more interactivity during these reading streams. specifically during this week because it's Romance Week. We're going to be doing reading streams all week long. So, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an opportunity to play around, interact with stream while you're listening to me ramble, as I tend to do, to fill space. But yeah, in case you haven't heard, or if you haven't heard, you don't follow me on Twitter or Blue Sky, this week is Romance Week. Katao Shoujo time. Yeah, we don't have... It would take me a very long time to read all of Katao Shoujo. I don't think I could fit that into a week. Unless I did like a fucking subathon. Which I don't have the means to do yet. So... Yeah, what the hell was I saying? I keep getting distracted. Yes, so... Romance Week. Today, we'll be doing our regular Mythos Monday with Witch on the Holy Night. Tomorrow, I have handpicked a handful of romantic or otherwise similar themed stories from Bullfinch's Mythology, a book that I have up on my shelf over there. Streams are good news for people like me who can't read. This is true. Fucking audio only viewers. Oh shit. He's initiating. Does not. Oh, you literally just spelled it wrong. Can you not do it? Oh, maybe only I can do it. All right, I'll have to look into the fucking. Probably only I can do it. I'll have to adjust the permissions for that. Yeah, it's only I can do it. All right, I'll have to adjust that off stream. Matter of fact, let me make a note. Stream avatars. Perms. I wrote Pems. Perms. There we go. Oh, should I turn the Doom music back on? I closed it. Fuck. I can't. It's gone. You can't. No music. I could just fix it right now. I'd have to, like, you guys would vanish for a little bit, because otherwise it would take over the whole screen, but... Yeah, actually, it would probably be better. Whoa, 2 in a row! Holy shit! That little rock Ralph is ruling the battlefield. Yeah, let me, Oh, I can also change that to be the other... Alright, hold on. Let me adjust some settings here real quick. I'm gonna turn on some background music because it's too quiet for me. Where's Harris Heller? There we go. Put on the fucking EDM playlist. Oh, that's loud. Yeah, that should be okay. Alright. Okay. I'm turning off the stream avatars for a second. Just so that I can make the adjustments here, because I have to like power the whole thing off to bring it back up. Oh, you can change on mobile. Oh, awesome. Is it a matter of you just like scroll down, you like minimize the chat or whatever? Or is it like an exclamation point command in the chat? Something like that. Could be. Oh man, this is a little complicated. Events. No, then that's not that kind of events. Bot commands. Battle Royale. Input required. Oh, status requirement. Subscribers. There we go. Okay. Commands, avatar selection. Games. Boss battle, battle royale, dual command. Sure, okay. Roulette. Slot machine. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Okay. Fun stuff. Fun stuff should be default to everyone. I don't know what that does. I'm gonna have to find out. Responses. What the fuck? You know, open the sound alerts and there's a separate tab in there. Oh, that's weird. I guess because if you click on sound alerts, that opens like the panel box. That's very. Oh, are they sharing a panel? Oh, that's weird. Okay, I'll have to see if I can make them say. I mean, if it's working, then that's great. I'm not gonna worry about that. Yeah. Well, command list. Okay. Can I... User editing? Nope. Missing images? No, I don't need that. What? Oh. Active users. No, I'm trying to change the chat message so that it's not my username that pops up. It'll be a different one. I don't know if I can do that though. Oh, fucking login details. Duh. This might fuck up the stream, but I hope not. Okay, that should be fine. Alright, and let me add one more. Let me just add that there. Okay. Connect. Alright, cool. Let me turn it back on. So now you can see it again. Oh. Well, there's the bot. But I guess that's fine. Alright. There you go. Congratulations. You have special privileges. I'll change you into a, also for, yeah, there you go. For lore purposes. For lore purposes, he's the furry one. Anyway. Oh, Gilgamesh is chosen to be a fucking Entei. Based. Alright. We've been putzing around for 40 minutes. I think it's about time that we get started with the video game. Hold on. There we go. I'm still in the way. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Alright, so you should have permissions to do Battle Royale and Bomb, and I think Basketball was also one, so that's interesting. If you type ! commands, it should give you a no, the VTuber scuff is expected. This is true. This is true. It has been only mildly scuffed. Shit has not gone wrong. It's just been, oh, I should probably edit that for convenience sake. Also, if you're wondering why part of Entei's face is missing, it's because I can't green screen, because then Duskform Lycanrock's eyes won't be there, and then I can't, so apparently I can't magenta screen, because then Selkie's kimono and Entei's face melts. So, and I don't want a blue screen, because blue is also a very common color. Oh, and Duskform Lycanrock is like half there. Okay, remember when I said it's not really scuffed? It's kind of scuffed. It's kind of just scuffed. Let's move on from that, shall we? Anyway. Yeah, you're right. I don't know why I'd ever try to deny you. Alright. Without any further ado, and hopefully without any further distraction, let us return to Witch on the Holy Night. Scarred, Scar Red. Minor update. I've learned that there are 13 main chapters in this game. And we are on chapter 9, I believe, even though the title says we're on the 8th session here. Tobias wins again? What the fuck? Bro's overpowered. But yeah, we are on chapter 9 because we had one episode of Mythos Monday where we had a very short chapter, followed by a second very short chapter, so we did 2 in one day. I'm not expecting that to happen again. We're considering we're on chapter 9 out of 13. I'm expecting the chapters to only get longer. So, yeah, we should probably get started. December, the month when even monks were busy at work. It was the culmination of the year. Perhaps due to all the put-off tasks built up through the seasons, the month always seemed to pass by in the blink of an eye. It was a day like any other in December. Though none of them were any the wiser to what the others were doing, Aoko, Alice, and Sojiro had spent the day attending to their own affairs. What is this? Give me one quick moment. There you go. I'm a professional streamer. I've pinned the message at the top of chat. Aoko kept the urge to kill out of her voice, but her menacing tone still reverberated in the room. The sunroom was often used to dine in when the weather was nice, since it overlooked the courtyard. It was a room decorated with high-quality furniture and upholstery, befitting an historic Western-style mansion. Anne could technically be grammatically correct in that sentence, depending on the way you pronounce the word historic, similar to the way you pronounce the word herb. The fusion of Chinese Chippendale aesthetics and traditional English Gregorian elegance caused even Aoko, a commoner, to think twice about doing anything unaristocratic on the grounds. That's Georgian, not Gregorian. That's my mistake. As in King George, not Pope Gregory. Truthfully, she was sickened by the flagrant waste of money, but none of it was paid for out of her pocket, so she could have cared less what the purchasers spent their money on. Could not have cared less. I can't believe we are 5 minutes into reading, and I've identified 3 weird grammatical things that happened. 3 unbelievably out-of-place offerings sat atop the lavish sunroom's table, as if enshrined. In stark contrast to the room, they appeared all like meals prepared by aliens. Sojiro, is this your idea of a practical joke? Aoko's trembling fists clenched and unclenched as she questioned the one responsible for today's menu. The clock struck 9 in the evening. Tonight's executive chef nodded dutifully, eager to explain. It's a new product from my workplace. Kinomi said it looks and tastes fake, but honestly I think it's better than the real thing. Besides, they're only 40 yen each after the company discount. A steal, right? Even with the egg on top, it's still only 60 yen or so. The corner-cutting chef seemed pleased with himself. Aoko wanted to grumble that the real steal was her appetite. Well, isn't that nice for you? Now, where's tonight's dinner? Chef Sojiro thought for a second or two, then clapped his hands together in realization. Ozaki, you know if you eat too much, you'll get fat. That was not the correct answer. So what you're telling me is, this slop is what you call dinner? Say your prayers is right. No complaints. I'm not making anything else. Holy shit, man, he's putting his foot down. The two stood there, glaring at each other. Aoko gave off an air that said she would rather die than eat his food, while Sojiro was convinced she would capitulate, eventually. He even considered chiding her for being a picky eater. As usual, the two could not see eye to eye. No way. There's no way I'm eating whatever this is. Don't be such a spoiled princess. Besides, tonight's dinner only costs 200 yen for the three of us. Sojiro puffed his chest out at his penny-pinching prowess. Alice alternated her gaze between the two quarreling roommates and the strange food before her, which she had also never seen before. She remained a mere bystander in all this. Unbelievable. A 60 yen meal for one person? What year is it? These days, even cheap beef bowl places spend more on ingredients. Aozaki, if we ate the way you wanted with only 30,000 yen for food each month, I'm pretty sure we'd all starve to death before you two could kill me. I mean, sure, the meat Alice cooked yesterday was really something. I was impressed at the difference in quality at 700 yen per ounce. Even the 100% juice from the co-op made me rethink the idea of fresh food. If we keep eating like we have for the last 3 days, we'll go broke. Sojiro was making perfect sense, for once. Fortunately, neither Aoko nor Sojiro noticed the silent stare of disapproval coming from Alice. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And I should note, a meal like yesterday's was a rarity. But maybe I should thank you, since your meals have inspired Alice to put some effort into hers for a change. With Aoko's words, Alice closed her eyes. She might have been trying to quell her anger. You astonish me, you know. How did you even get by before me? We made it work, thank you very much. Besides, living life one step from starvation keeps you on your toes. Her brazen response left him speechless. Though a story for another time, Sojiro remembered a warning from a certain vice president, who had complained about a certain president incessantly bugging him to take her out to lunch at the end of the month. But that was neither here nor there. That was then, and this is now. Where are those cooking skills you displayed before, Sojiro? That's the only reason I trusted you with today's meal. Out of everything, that seemed to be what ate at Aoko the most. The stir-fried yaki udon he had prepared previously had been very well received. It had even melted away Aoko's morning grumpiness with just one bite. However, Sojiro had not seen fit to tell them that it was one of the only dishes in his limited repertoire. For a bachelor, the ability to cook is as close to a superpower as one could get. 15 years into the future, it would likely become a highly desirable trait. Regardless, that misunderstanding had led Aoko and Alice to overestimate Sojiro's culinary talents. Her ire finally made sense to Sojiro. Alright, fine. We can order in. There's nothing here to cook anyway. But only if you clear up. Aoko basked in her victory. It was then, after seeing Sojiro's face as he went to fetch the delivery menu, Aoko realized her misreading of him. What annoyed Aoko most was the fact that such little effort was put into dinner. But to Sojiro, this dinner had not been about cutting corners, but rather about a meal he had legitimately wanted to try. Aoko ruminated on how it could probably pass as food for someone raised in the mountains. And then... Alice, what are you doing? Aoko noticed Alice standing near the table, holding one of the bowls tightly. Would you put that down already? I need to give those back to Sojiro so he can eat a proper meal. Despite Aoko's words, Alice stood her ground, firmly clutching the bowl. In fact, she seemed to be embracing it. This one is mine. Alice's faint voice drifted across the sunroom. And just like that, the night's menu had been decided by majority rule. Aoko's shoulders sank in disappointment at her lot that evening. Come to think of it, Alice was always peculiar about things she deemed hers. It was morning, and there were 10 days left in December. While the rest of the city was preparing for Christmas festivities, Sojiro headed to his part-time job. Though it looked like it could snow at any minute, the tree-lined streets were busy with foot traffic. These days were particularly merry. Students on winter break spent their days hanging out with friends while they counted down the days until the holidays. Colorful Christmas cakes lined storefronts, placed like charms to ward off evil. Huge advertisements adorned the sides of buildings. The station plaza bustled with pop-up stalls. Sojiro stepped out of the milling crowd and into a phone booth. Safe from the winter wind, the inside seemed warm by comparison. He thought that it would actually be nice to have one in the mountains. The thought that it would actually be nice to have one in the mountains crossed his mind as he inserted a coin into the phone. He dialed a number from memory, his fingers punching the keys with a somewhat practiced motion. After about 5 seconds, the phone began to ring. Another 5 seconds, another ring. 10 seconds had passed. He gazed through the window at the various signs on the surrounding buildings and marveled at the sheer number of people out and about so early. I'd just like to point out that they had a dial tone. Fucking dial tones don't exist anymore. You don't need them. The number he dialed was that of Tobimaru Tsukiji. The Tsukiji name was well known in Misaki as a distinguished landowning family going back generations. Incidentally, their residence was located in the neighboring town of Yashirogi. A kind, elderly female voice finally replaced the ringtone. After her polite greeting, she handed the phone over to Sojiro's target.
Ohayo, Tobimaru.
Morning, Tobimaru. Hey, morning. He was still half asleep, or so it sounded to Sojiro. I need to ask you something. Do you have a second? Speak. His response did not exactly inspire confidence in Sojiro, but he cut right to the chase. There was a long pause. It was hard to read from this end of the receiver. I thought that was some unknown number calling me. Lamau. This is what you wake me up for? Listen here, Sojiro. If she's mad at you, take her out somewhere. Try to butter her up, show her a good time. If that doesn't do the trick, then cut her loose. What do you want me to say? And with a peace, Tobimaru hung up. It may have been 10 in the morning to Sojiro, but after dealing with what seemed like a 6 o'clock Tobimaru, all he could do was nod earnestly. He had a feeling his friend had just been trying to end the call, but deep down, he knew that the advice was sound. After the phone ordeal, Sojiro finished up his shopping and returned to the mansion just before noon. He was greeted by the sight of Aoko and Alice sitting in silent gloom. Though he was unsure of the circumstances, from the outside looking in, it seemed like the aftermath of an argument. The silence was as deafening as a blizzard, or rather the biting cold and stinging wind of it. One might also compare the drawing room to an enormous walk-in freezer. It would not have been surprising to look up and see icicles hanging from the ceiling. They're at it again. He felt like a zookeeper, pained to see the raccoon and penguin at each other's throats. In fact, he had seen this literally happen the other day at his zoo janitor job, and now he glanced between them like a zookeeper trying to gauge the animal's temper. I wonder which one's the raccoon and which one's the penguin. Needless to say, the silence meant they were not fighting at this moment. Dinner served as a respite from the conflict. Sojiro was oblivious to the circumstances surrounding the quarrel, but their day-in, day-out battles against the mysterious mage was clearly taking a toll. Not that Alice looks anything but grumpy. Across from the quiet and contemplative Aoko, Alice was reading an old book in her lap, as she was accustomed to. The book seemed somehow heavier than her other ones. I'm home. Looks like I just missed the discussion. He greeted them as he took off his coat. If only. Discussion implies progress. You're way off, Sojiro. Without quite knowing what Aoko was getting at, Sojiro quizzically tilted his head. He told himself not to think too hard into it, but it only made him more curious. In fact, we're not even close to an agreement. If anything, I'd say we've debated ourselves into a corner. Seemingly too preoccupied to scold Sojiro, Aoko waved her hand as though shooing off an insect. But Sojiro, being Sojiro... Okay, let me start over. Hey, you two. Any progress since last time? Sojiro held his ground. That's none of your business. What did I tell you? Mage affairs are not for your ears. Her response was calm, but pointed. Surliness was her weapon of choice, and today she seemed determined to swing it out at will. Yes, I remember. Did you two eat yet? Sojiro chose to brush off Aoko's attitude. If Aoko's weapon was surliness, Sojiro's was blitheness. He wielded just enough of it to make Aoko flinch. What's with you today? Something nice happened to you? Sojiro shook his head. Not yet, but I do have a proposal for you. He dug around in the pocket of his coat, which was now on a hanger. Aoko gave him a dubious stare, while Alice's ears perked up at his upbeat tone. Actually, today was payday, which means I have money. We should go out and do something. He spoke with a warm smile as he removed his wallet from his coat pocket. The other two did not know what to make of it. She wanted to take exception to his bright mood, but found herself wrestling with the idea of reacting positively to it. After all, he was making a gesture of good faith to try and make things better with what little funds he had. The thought itself was not a bad one. While there was always the chance that Alice would keep quiet until the slightest thing annoyed her, at which point she would ruin everything. Aoko wanted to accept his goodwill. Won every battle royale while AFK for 2 of them. Incredible. Truly. However, she was not in the mood to walk around town with either of the 2, nor was the timing ideal. Sorry, but I'm kind of busy. I'll take you up on it some other time, though. Just remind me. Alice seemed to give the same response, though wordlessly. Sojiro was not about to be held back by the sullen mood. Busy doing what? Sitting here in silence? Wasn't it you, Aozaki, that said a change of pace was important when working overnight? Sometimes you need to take 1 step back to take 2 steps forward. Sojiro spoke with unusual confidence as he drew 2 tickets from his wallet and slapped them on the table. At first glance, they looked like advance tickets to a movie, but not quite. They were tickets to a famous aquarium. To get there, they would take the rapid train and subway to a city several times more modern than Misaki. It housed not only the biggest shopping mall in the prefecture, but also a multi-purpose auditorium, set to open next year, designed to host international conferences and stage productions. Oh, and eat some curry at Messayan, on me. Saying that, he slapped 2 bills on the table, as if he had struck it rich. It was Sojiro's turn to make dinner tonight, after all. Be seeing you. His business concluded, Sojiro returned his wallet to his coat pocket. It was then that Aoko realized what Sojiro meant by be seeing you. You mean you're not coming with us? I have to work tonight. Sojiro was almost too quick with his response, helping Aoko to see things for what they really were. Rather than for Sojiro's benefit, his gesture was instead an attempt to ease the tension that had built up between Aoko and Alice. Though if asked, both girls would tell you it was an unnecessary gesture. Still, for him to pay this much attention to the household, if anything, gave Aoko reason to reflect on her own immaturity. Aoko glanced over to the still-seated Alice. At the same time, Alice peeked up at Aoko from behind her book. They kept still, staring at each other. I'll go if you go. I'm almost done with my book. Okay, it would be a waste not to. Aoko stood up from the sofa, resigned to her decision. Sojiro watched on, a satisfied smile on his face. "20 minutes later. As Aoko and Alice were done getting ready, Aoko called out to Sojiro in the drawing room. Alright, we're leaving now. Sojiro? Sojiro was crouched in front of the television, unaware that the two had entered the room. Are you fiddling with the VCR? VCR, man, I'm old. Oh, hey, good timing. How do I... Pausing his audio-visual struggles, Sojiro turned around. Me too, bud. Damn. What? Wow. He froze in shock, forgetting what he was about to say. Holy crap, Lois, it's Rin Tosaka's a white woman. What does that mean? What does that mean? They're both Japanese anyway. I think Alice is the only one with European heritage. And she's still Japanese, I'm pretty sure. She do be having the thigh highs in the skirt though. That's very Rin coded. I love that a lot. You okay? Listen, we're taking you up on your offer and going out. Did you drop something behind the TV? Sojiro appeared to have gone stiff. Aoko stared at him curiously, though Alice silently nodded along with his bizarre reaction. She kept her thoughts to herself. No. It's just... Still gawking, his voice stuck in his throat. He was blissfully unaware that the shock he was experiencing was the direct result of his emotional state. Spit it out already. God, I wish your weird reactions made sense sometimes. Does Alice have something on her face, or...? Alice looked on in silence. He was not confused or in a daydream. That much he could tell. But this frozen look was, by all accounts, a first for Sojiro. So what is it then? This thing here. How exactly do I use it? Shaking his head to regain his composure, Sojiro pointed to the VCR. A VHS player sat on a shelf beneath the TV. What, you want to record something? Aoko walked over and crouched next to Sojiro in front of the TV. No, I just borrowed a video from Kinomi, but it won't play. Well, for starters, the TV isn't turned on. With a click, the TV screen flickered alive. Next, you have to switch to the video input. That's weird, it's all dark. Knowing Kinomi, I'm surprised the recording doesn't start from the very beginning. During this time period, videotapes were still rather expensive. Therefore, it was only natural for people to not want to waste a single second of the tape's 120-minute capacity. Especially considering how serious he is about his hobbies. Oh well, we'll have to fast forward. Aoko picked the small remote up and quickly pushed the button marked FWD. The VCR beeped in protest. With several clicks and thuds, there was an empty whir from within the machine. Don't look at me, I didn't break it, I think. The vast majority of people who say this are actually very prone to destroying electrical equipment, but that is a separate matter. There's no tape in here. Why is the TV making microwave sounds? It's not the TV, it's the VCR. As soon as the words left her lips, it all made sense.
Tape?
Tape? Sojiro had imagined adhesive tape, clearly confused. Sojiro, did Kinomi give you something? You mean the thing on the table? Though she should have been used to it by now, she caught herself wondering if Sojiro was being stupid deliberately. Sojiro, what exactly did Kinomi say? Do you remember? Yeah, he said, I'll totally lend you this tape. When you get home, just watch the TV. Great, so he left out the most important part. Honestly, this is so sad it's almost scary. Just when I thought you were finally adapting. How you make it through a day is a mystery to me. Exasperated, Aoko fetched the tape in question. It was labeled Gaku Gaku Animal Kingdom, African Adventure. To Aoko, this knocked Hosuke Kinomi down a level on the ratings file she kept with the student council. Okay, you put the tape in the VCR and push play. The tab isn't broken, so just be careful. The tab isn't broken, so just be careful not to hit the record button. What's a tab? Right here. See the indent on the side of the tape here? The tab is this little plastic cover. If you snap this tab off, you can't record on this tape anymore. How can I explain this? Think of it like a notebook for class. It's like a sealant you spray over the page so it can't be erased. Think of it as a physical barrier against common human error. She inserted the tape into the VCR and handed the remote to Sojiro. Just this small interaction used up a fair bit of Aoko's patience. Completely ignorant of Aoko's feelings, Sojiro gleefully pressed the play button. I was afraid we weren't going to make it this far for a second there. That was a bit much even for someone as out of place as you are. What were you doing up there in the mountains? Don't tell me you were some karate master training against bears or something. Even Sojiro managed to pick up on Aoko's rude tone, and he frowned disapprovingly. Was that an attempt to insult me? You mean just now, or all the other times? Sojiro was just going, nya. You know, like, nya. The fucking :3 face is just my regular face. Look at this. Look at... Oh, that's the wrong button. Look at... It's just me. This does not in any way reinforce that I'm a cat, because I'm not. Aoko answered unapologetically. On the TV, a crocodile's yawning mouth appeared. Don't be ridiculous. Why would anyone train against bears? Sojiro turned toward the TV in a huff. Perhaps because of his rare outburst, as he turned face to face with the gaping maw of the crocodile on the TV, he fell backwards in surprise. Aoko unpursed her lips upon seeing this, delighted. It was relieving to see the boy disarmed. Hey, Aozaki, these machines have gotten kind of dusty. Don't you clean them? Why bother? I hardly ever use them, and Alice doesn't watch TV. I bought some exercise videos to train with, but got bored of them. Who would have thought you actually need to do the exercises instead of just watching the damn thing? That's funny. Aoko shrugged at her past superficiality. And Sojiro was led to believe yet another falsehood about modern life, that VCRs would go out of fashion. Nasu, you sweet summer child. A quick reminder that this story takes place in the year 1989, I believe. Or sometime in the late 80s. VCRs were outmoded, what, 2002? 2004? Wow, that's something. That's really something. Well then, we're off. Try not to burn the place to the ground. And in case you were wondering, I know you don't have work tonight. Aoko walked out of the drawing room, smiling. Her grin was the cheap shot that left Sojiro speechless. As he scratched his cheek, he was reminded that she was not someone to be trifled with. After watching the end of the drama between her housemates, Alice made for the reception area as well. Left alone in the room, Sojiro took his seat on the sofa. Well, it was certainly not easy making everything run smoothly around these parts. Until they came back, he could enjoy his crocodile watching in peace. They took the subway from Misaki for 6 stations. From there, they rode another 3 stops by express train. After about an hour, Aoko and Alice arrived at Arisaka Station. While Misaki City was a mixture of old and new architecture, Arisaka was a brand new town built in accordance with recent government ordinance. It was as though an entire town full of tall buildings sprouted up in the middle of nowhere. It was near the end of December, in the middle of winter break. Even the bustling plaza in Misaki was quiet compared to Arisaka in the evening. Whether it was the huge mall full of countless specialty stores or the crowded multi-purpose auditorium, there really was something for everyone here. For that reason, beyond its local residents, Arisaka Station was crowded with people from far and wide. Cool. That must be their fancy new performance arts center. I suppose it's supposed to have the biggest concert hall in the prefecture. I wonder what it's like inside. Look how much grander it is than the buildings around it. They made their way to the aquarium, weaving through the crowds. Aoko might have been used to city life, but Alice was silently anxious. The people passing by must have thought this pale girl out of place, which Alice happened to agree with. Oh, it says a big artist is coming summer of next year. Oh my god, it's Pink Trudy! Alice, this says that'll be their first live appearance in Japan! Aoko exclaimed, overcome by excitement. This kind of pop-rock band was right up Aoko's alley. But naturally, Alice did not seem very interested. And Trudy ain't got nothing on Floyd. I'm more amazed by the Polish orchestra they've invited to open for them. This must be costing them a fortune. How incorrigible. Aoko cursed under her breath before hurrying them along. Underneath the construction map read, "With the support of the Kuonji Group." Ah. The aquarium they were looking for was on the top floor of a massive building. Maybe it was because it was no longer a new attraction. Or perhaps it was because the first-floor cinema drew the crowds. With only a few people scattered around the entrance, the atmosphere inside was very calm. It wasn't quiet, but desolate, and far removed from the hustle and bustle outside. Perhaps they were going for a museum-like mood. Alice quietly caught her breath, staring in awe. She was like a child seeing the circus for the first time. her eyes wide in anticipation and wonder.
お、気に入ったみたいね。
It's to the lady's liking, I see. Good, good. I guess Sojiro's idea wasn't totally off the mark then, huh? Aoko found herself smiling as well. There was a certain joy in seeing Alice's wonderment. Not really. I just find rooftop aquariums to be kind of novel. According to the guide on the wall, the entrance to the aquarium was nearly as big as the Kuonji Mansion's foyer. The outdoor penguin show was apparently suspended due to the star penguin Flippy undergoing treatment for an injury. It was an unfortunate state of affairs, but one that did not stop Alice from continuing to read over the guide. Apparently, she was quite familiar with penguin shows. Then... I can't believe it. Alice quietly whimpered, as if holding back a scream. Hey, what's wrong? Aoko said, still looking at the floor plan. It was rare to see Alice getting this emotional outside of the mansion. For some reason, she was trembling. Nothing seemed terribly off about the aquarium's offerings. There's no giant tortoises. No what? It's all wrong, Aoko. Why is there no giant tortoise exhibit? Why? I don't know. Are giant tortoises even aquatic? Maybe it's because they take up too much space. Why, though? They have penguins. It's not fair. Look, they even have a dolphin. This is absurd. It was a bitter pill for Alice to swallow. The idea that they did not have a giant tortoise, despite having a dolphin, had Alice's eyes hot with indignation. Now that you mention it, if penguins and dolphins are standard fare, you'd have thought they would at least have a giant tortoise. What were they thinking? Aoko said, certain something like a giant tortoise would be boring and unpopular. She was sensible enough to read the room, however, and kept her thought to herself. Let's go, Alice. We have tickets, so we can skip the line. A few moments after the giant tortoise fiasco, presenting the tickets they received from Sojiro, they headed toward the once popular entrance. From the entrance gate, the corridor stretched into a dark hallway, completely illuminated in blue. Figures and faces became mere silhouettes in the darkness. It was no darkness born from magecraft, but a man-made area of twilight. A world of shadow and blue, the only light being from the illuminated tanks. The two witches continued walking down the artificial ocean corridor. Water tanks seemed like windows into hundreds of different worlds. Each had their own separate temperature and environment. It was as if they were snapshots of the same place at different times. Mesmerized by the refracting images of the ocean floor, the housemates' conversation grew sparse. That reminds me, Alice. You have this huge mansion without a pool. What's up with that? Oh, excuse me. Good big yawn just there. Figures. You come to an aquarium, and that's what you think about. Wanting superfluous things is a bad habit of yours, Aoko. Aw, pool isn't superfluous. Besides, aren't pools more common in England than Japan? Or could it be that you can't swim? I spent enough time in a swimsuit. I often swam in the lake as a child.
私
And I never once lost a race to our big Saint Bernard.
セントバーナード
A Saint Bernard.
アリスさん
Wait,
から
don't tell me.
もしかして
You had trouble with your
息継ぎとか
breathing,
やったか
didn't
しら
you?
この世で最も聞きたくない言葉
Spare me the swimming lesson.
クロールとかバタフライ
Crawl,
とか
butterfly.
発明
The
した
people
人
who
は
invented
暗巨人
those were probably half fish anyway. Question of the day, do you pronounce it Saint Bernard or Saint Bernard? It occurs to me I asked another question about pronunciation in Twitch chat. Anyway. Bernard, yeah. Bernard is also Bernard. It's legit. Saint Bernard. They are big dogs. I used to, one of my, I was gonna say neighbors, but not really. Someone in my neighborhood used to have one, and I'd sometimes be out on what they had a Saint Bernard and they had a smaller dog, and it was always funny that they both lived in the same house. Because I'd see them in the yard, and I'd be like, "That's a big dog. That dog's so big it could eat that other dog and not notice." Anyway, getting back on topic. Clack, clack, clack. Their pace was more delicate and solemn than a stroll along the beach. It was the sort of absent-minded chat one might hear between girls anywhere in the world. In here, the only thing to do was look at blue screens.
でも驚いた
I'm surprised you were willing to leave him alone in the house. You're not worried he'll go snooping in the West Wing, are you?
とか考えなかった彼
He
そこまで考えな
can't
しじゃない
possibly
で
be
しょ
that foolish.
それに
Besides,
それに
It'd save us trouble if he
手間が
did.
省けてせいせいしたそうじゃなくて
it's not that.
一度交わした約束は
I just don't think he's the type to break his word. That he was not. Aoko nodded, her long hair waving back and forth. A certain gleam of surprise in her eyes. Onward they meandered to the next aquatic world. Clack, clack, clack.
ところで水族
By
館
the
初
way,
めて
is this your first time at an aquarium?
これで二度目
Second. I went with a friend long
友達と
ago.
二人で行ったきりよ嘘
No way, really?
本当
Yes, really.
6年以上も前
More than 6 years ago, when I was still in England.
そうじゃなくて
No, I mean the friend part.
あんた
I thought you said you didn't have any friends.
友達はいないって言ったじゃない昔の話よ
That was a
私
long
たち
time ago.
同じ名前だった
We even had the same name.
それが縁でよく遊んで
We
い
used
た
to
けど
play all the time, but we
長
fell out
続
of
きはし
touch.
なかったわそっか
That's
あっち
right.
じゃそう珍しく
Alice
ない
must be a
名前
pretty
なの
common
ね
name over
アリス
there.
って
Here it's all
こっちで言うと
Ryoko
ころ
or
の
Hanako
陽子と
and
か
such.
花子みたいなものええ
Indeed.
青子とか赤子と
Or
か
names referencing colors like Aoko, Akako, or Kuroko, or Shirako.
後半はみんな普通名詞なんですけど
They do all end with ko, don't they? To each their own, a society of names. The swirling of the waters was dizzying, much like the hectic world of humans. Their hands swung back and forth as they walked toward the next world.
そういう青子は彼をどうするつもりなの
Incidentally, Aoko, what exactly is your plan for him?
どうって
Well, once our current issue is resolved and things calm down, I'll find the rune for erasing his memory, and he'll forget we ever existed. He won't be a bother for much longer.
それは
A bother to whom? Me? Oh, yeah,
そう
obviously.
に決まってるじゃない
Wow, this fish is really pretty. Makes me want to swim. Hey, we should go to the beach next summer. I just had a Kingdom Hearts 2 moment, don't mind me. The beach. You mean by the ocean? Of course. You know, fun under the hot summer sun, sand between your toes, watching the sun set on the horizon. We couldn't go this year, so why don't we go together next year? Your optimism is exhausting. But that does sound nice. If we manage to survive until next summer, that is. Clack, clack, clack. The two girls journeyed to the next oceanic wonderland, mutually taking in the sights. The visitors to these winter waters had begun to leave, satisfied by their tour. The sound of their footsteps heralded their farewell. An hour into the wayfaring sea voyage. Losing themselves in the maze-like corridors of seemingly endless exhibits, they somehow found themselves on the next floor. Alco had heard that the aquarium was situated on the top floor, and was shocked to find out there was yet another above it. It was likely by design that the actual top floor could only be accessed from within the aquarium. Moments of intrigue such as this are what attractions were made for. Turning this way and that, she found Alice had disappeared. Her housemaid had just been there, however, and Alco took to looking for her. She soon found her nearby. Her white overcoat shone brightly in front of the dimly lit exhibit. She was staring motionless into the water tank. Alice almost looked to be staring through it, as though distracted by something. What's wrong, Alice? Are you feeling okay? She spoke, hoping to snap her out of it. Alice's typically cold aura seemed to have all but left her. Is it a rare fish? This looks like the tank they use for all the fish that don't fit anywhere else. Alice gave a non-committal response. Just ahead of her gaze was a single shadow. Wow, an ocean sunfish. Alice remained motionless, unresponsive to Aoko's sarcasm. She stood in silence, watching the poor little fish, drifting listlessly in the tank where they put the fish that did not fit anywhere else, here at the end of the hall. To put it lightly, sunfish were not especially pleasant to look at. When looking at one, it begged the question of what direction evolution wanted to take with it. It looked like it swam using rudder-like fins on its top and bottom, but lacked the grace of other fish. To Aoko, its eyes, body, and strange movements made it an awkward creature. But... Hey Alice, let's check out what the whale shark exhibit over there. Sounds really exciting, don't you think? Alice, unmoved, fixated on the sunfish. It clumsily drifted around its tank, occasionally bumping into the glass as it turned. Aoko, this little one can't swim well. Alice extended her finger toward the glass, then retracted it, feeling childish. Oh, whatever. I suppose sunfish have their own charm. It did not seem like Alice was going to budge. Resigning herself, Aoko stayed with Alice while she stared at the cushion-shaped fish. They have eyes like pufferfish. It also says here that the females can produce more eggs than any other known vertebrate, up to 300 million at a time. Neat. The babies become prey to other fish, so in a way, giving birth to so many is a means of survival for them. Though Aoko seemed taken in by the biological details of the fish, Alice could have cared less. Oh. Alice couldn't have cared less. This time they did it right. Weird. She was lost in the ebb and flow of emotions between wonder and woe, with every clumsy bump of the fish into the glass. Out of nowhere, she softly spoke. About before. Huh? Before? When? About him. About leaving the house in his care. It seemed like Alice had returned to her normal self. There was that cold aura. Whether inside the mansion or out, that stubborn chill that pushed people away was back. I haven't changed my mind. He is still a complete unknown. How can I trust someone I know nothing about? I guess. But then why let him? Because I know you, Aoko. You always make the right decision. So, I'm trusting your judgment on the matter. It was true. She did not know Sojiro, nor had any intention to. But because of her trust in Aoko, she could trust in Aoko's decision to allow him to stay. It seemed Alice was challenging her own feelings. She said she could not trust someone she did not know. In other words, she wished to trust him, and in order to do so, she needed to know more about him. Well, I don't really know how to respond to that, Alice. Also, I had no idea you trusted me that much. I do trust you. I may not be fond of you, but I trust you. Because we're partners in crime, aren't we? Her white coat swayed to and fro. Just like that, their short excursion had come to an end. Straight ahead was the exit back to the real world. A step away from the exhibit was a step toward becoming better roommates. Such a kind face, but clearly so scarred. One last small whisper. And with that, she bid farewell to the lonely figure in the tank. It's my favorite song. The sun set early during winter. By 4 in the afternoon, it had already fallen below the horizon. Evening seemed to arrive at the mansion earlier than in the city. I see. Now I know all about crocodiles. Sojiro sat alone, sipping his warm tea in the chilly room. He relaxed on the couch, staring out the window, having had his fill of crocodiles. Once he sprawled out on the sofa, his body refused to move. Maybe he had always wanted to try it. He had always wanted to try it. After 3 straight hours of crocodile watching, he intently pondered what it would be like to laze there for the remainder of the day, like a reptile. Just as he was considering the opportunity to nap until Aoko and Alice returned, an unnatural noise echoed through the halls of the mansion. Sluggishly, he rose from all fours to a bipedal state, as if undergoing an evolution of his own. It was a knocking sound that repeated itself regularly, with patient pauses in between. He recognized the cadence from something he had experienced at his apartment before. A newspaper salesman? Making for the foyer, Sojiro was impressed that they had hiked all the way up the hill. The knocking resounded eerily. Without a doorbell of any kind, visitors had no choice but to rap on the door using whatever they had in hand. It would take a literal iron fist to produce the din Sojiro heard just now. From his position in the hall, the front door looked like an ornately built fortification. The sturdy double doors looked as though they could withstand any onslaught of blows. But now, they rattled in protest to the repeated knocking. Whoever the visitor was, they seemed determined to breach the castle gate by force if its defender refused to sally forth. Fortunately for them, Sojiro was a sympathetic, having experience selling newspapers himself. Just a second. He knew what it was like to be in those shoes, so was unsurprised by their persistence. Oh, it's her. There stood the second surprise of the day. Sojiro was struck speechless. He was greeted by a young woman who hardly looked the part of a newspaper hawker. Standing in the courtyard against a dusk-lit horizon, she appeared more at home in the European mansion than Sojiro did. Oh my. Oh my. She carried a dignified air, in spite of her dainty frame. While a tad shorter than Sojiro, she was tall for her sex. Her green clothing was subtly colored, yet flashy, and clearly inspired by foreign fashion. She seemed prim and proper, yet bold. Though vaguely garish, her appearance spoke of strength and confidence. Sojiro knew all too well that such a woman was not to be trifled with. Only, unlike the one he knew, this stranger appeared more friendly than intimidating. Perhaps it was her short hair that made her look approachable. Bright and brown, it stopped just above the nape of her neck. Sojiro silently thought that it was a shame she hadn't grown it out. She looked at him and offered a smile. Despite seeming visibly older than him, this made her appear impish and cute. Sojiro reacted with suspicion, knowing better by now than to fall for her charming smile. At any rate, it was rude to stare. Can I help you? He tried not to look flustered as he greeted the visitor. To which she replied, "Good evening. Is Aoko home?" She smiled as she used Aoko's first name with a familiar tone. I know who she is. Aozaki isn't home right now. She smiled again, this time deviously upon learning of Aoko's absence. And then I take it Miss Kuonji is away too. Sojiro looked perplexed. This was the first time he had heard Alice referred to by her last name only, and again with the familiarity of an old friend.
そっか
I
夜
see.
ならともかく
It's nice to hear that they can get out during the day instead of only during the dead of night.
形だけの雑居
I
だ
was
と
under
思
the
ったけど
impression that living together was merely a facade, but they really do get along. Sojiro found himself nodding in response to her smile. It was strange enough that the visitor knew both Aoko and Alice, but Sojiro found her odd as well. Likely in her early 20s, she did not appear much older than he was. She was clearly hiding something behind her nonchalant manner and bright smile.
それじゃあ帰ってくるにして
So they
も
won't be home until the evening then?
はい
That's
終電前
correct,
には帰ってくると
though
思うん
I
ですけど
expect them back a bit before the last train.
そう
I
ところで
see.
君
And
誰
who might you be? Sojiro, troubled by her forwardness, wanted to ask her the same. Alas, who are you was a question far too difficult for Sojiro.
すみません
I'm sorry,
誰かと言わ
I
れてもよく
don't really know how to answer that.
とりあえず今は
For
留
now,
守番して
I'm the
ま
house
すけど
sitter.
実
I'm
は
a friend of
青崎の
Aozaki's, to
友人
tell
なん
the
ですよ
truth. It was a response without an ounce of persuasion to it. The young woman's face lit up at what she believed was the boy's attempt to tease her.
へえ
Aren't you a
面白
funny
いこと
one?
言うのね君
What's your name, dear?
名前はなんて言うの
あの
It's Sojiro
静
Shizuki.
宗十郎というのですが
His shy answer made her giggle. Sojiro had no idea what he'd said that was so funny, but her laugh did not offend him. It came across as warm and affable rather than derogatory. Then, after she finished giggling, the woman fixed him with a rather tender look.
いや気に入ったわ
I think I like you,
宗
Sojiro, was
十
it?
郎くんだっけ君には合わない名前
A
だけど
fine name for hypnosis, though it doesn't really suit you.
じゃ
Now
そう
then,
いうわけで
pour me some tea,
お
would
茶で
you?
も入れてくれない
あいや
Hey, wait. She slipped past him into the house, boldly striding through the entrance hall.
うわ呆れた
Wow, it's
ほん
just
と
as I
以前のまん
remember.
まじゃないせっかくこっちに
I
持っ
thought
て
she
き
would
た
have
んだから
repaired the damaged
悪いと
pieces,
ころ
but
は
with
リフォー
taking
ム
the
したも
trouble
の
to
と思
bring
った
them
け
all
ど
the way here,
何
I
も
would have fixed
柱
up the
が
warped
歪んで
columns
再
at
現しな
least.
くてもいいのにね
The visitor cheerfully inspected the foyer. Sojiro still stood at the entrance. The clicking of her heels on the wooden floor echoed as she moved toward the drawing room.
どうしたの
Why are you
こっちでしょ
standing there?
今は
The drawing room's this way, isn't it? She disappeared from the foyer into the drawing room, oddly familiar with the layout of the house.
青崎かアリス
Does she know
どっち
Aozaki
か
from
の先輩
school?
かな
Or maybe she knows Alice. Sojiro muttered to himself, walking to the drawing room. Oh, excuse me. He entered to see the woman walking around the room gleefully, like someone strolling down a park boulevard. She peered around, breathing in the nostalgia, twirling with ladylike, or rather, girlish glee. Hmm? Wait a minute. This TV is... She stared at the television inquisitively. Perhaps she had never seen a 30-inch television before. Awkwardly for Sojiro, the cathode ray tube was still displaying images of the animal kingdom. He wished he'd stopped the video before he answered the door.
もし
May I... He blurted half a question, attempting to regain his composure. There were many questions to be answered, but he first resolved to ask her name, at least. The woman turned a coldly observant gaze on him. Her intimidating eyes and long, thin eyebrows bored into Sojiro through her spectacles. Sojiro had intended no offense, but now he felt like he had chosen his words very poorly. He apologetically clammed up. Then... Come now, Sojiro. May I? Really? Do I look like some old lady to you? She snickered. Her disapproving glare melted into a teasing smile. Of course, that wasn't true at all. It would be more accurate to say she had the air of an older sister. Wink. Or at least that's what Sojiro attempted to express with body language, to which she grinned smugly. Very well. Let's do away with the formalities, shall we? They're beginning to bore me anyway. Oh my goodness. Without making a sound, she took an effortless seat on the sofa, as naturally as if she belonged there. Her posture and movements exuded sophistication, and she required no words to instruct him to hurry along and make the tea. Without pressing her further, Sojiro headed to the kitchen. It seemed that the conversation would not proceed until tea had been served. He chose the fauchon, which he was forced to replace once before, after using it without permission. Since she was here to see Aoko, he decided to serve her using Aoko's Sèvres teacup. Into the cup, as blue as the ocean depths, he carefully poured the tea before returning to the drawing room. Gently, he placed the teacup on the table and faced the woman. Forgive me for not asking earlier, but should I take it that you're an acquaintance of Aozaki's? Or whatever? Despite being told otherwise, Sojiro could not help but stand on ceremony. His clumsy effort to make the question sound casual only jumbled it further. The visitor's eyes narrowed again in displeasure. That's what I mean. Would you stop calling her Aozaki? It's beginning to grate on me. Just use Aoko. The woman kept the rest of her expression indifferent as she slowly raised the cup to take a sip. Smiling, she tolerated the tea that Aoko and Alice regularly criticized as bitter and clumsily brewed. Sojiro had yet to learn that society thoughtfully awarded participation trophies to people merely for trying, regardless of the outcome. Come, don't stand there, sit. I don't like being looked down on. Sojiro tilted his head, noting a slight familiarity to her manner of speech. It was almost as if they'd met somewhere before. Wait. The sight of her sitting on the sofa began to stir forgotten memories. Noticing his reaction, the woman became visibly delighted. You remember me? I can tell you I was as surprised as you are. I came all the way here to see Aoko, and instead I find you standing there to greet me. Oh. Now that she was chuckling, Sojiro remembered everything. He had only glimpsed her for a moment, but there was no mistaking it. It had to be her. The woman smoking the long cigarette who had cleaned out the pachinko parlor. You gave me quite the fright that day, Sojiro. You took one look at me and ran away. How terrifying you must think I am reacting like that. You hurt my feelings, you know. In spite of her words, she clearly enjoyed the memory. She was right. He'd mistaken her for the murderous shadow, Aoko, in the park from the previous night, and fled in mortal terror. Even though it was clearly a case of mistaken identity, he could now see why he had mixed them up.
そうか
So that's
雰囲
why
気が似てるんだ
they feel similar. Finally, Sojiro realized who the visitor was. He chided himself for not realizing it sooner.
それじゃああな
You
たは
must be... Just as he was about to say it, she held up her hand to interrupt him. She pointed at him like she was aiming a gun.
ごめんなさい
Forgive me.
君の仕草が
Your
ちょっと
reaction
可
was
愛く
just so
て
cute, I got
からかい
carried
に
away
過ぎちゃった
teasing you.
自己紹介が遅れた
It's
け
a
ど
little late,
私
but
は
my
青
name
崎
is
塔子
Toko Aozaki.
率直に言うと
Surprise!
青子の実
I'm
の姉
Aoko's big
ってわけね
sister. That figured. No wonder he'd been charmed at first sight. It wasn't hard to envision Toko as a not-too-distant future version of Aoko, with her smile that imparted courage to any who glimpsed it. Only, while Aoko was earnest and diligent, Toko seemed to be shrewd and playful.
あの子が困って
I
る
heard my
って聞い
sister
て
was in
ね
trouble,
いい加減忠告
so I
してあげ
came
る
all
気
the way
で
over here to set her
はるばる
straight.
やってきたわけなのでした
Aoko's sister chuckled coyly while sipping her tea. Lured by her charm, Sojiro sat on the sofa as well. He felt like he could relax a little now that the initial shock of an unexpected guest had subsided. Just like that, it was almost 5 in the afternoon. Aoko and Alice would be returning from their excursion soon. This was Misaki City's only subway line. Only half a year had passed since its opening, and at the end of the fairly new platform, there the two girls stood. The time was 6:30 in the evening. They had been idling for around 20 minutes since returning from Arisaka, and had yet to return to street level.
青子
There was a hint of irritation in Alice's voice. Whoa! My raid alert finally went off! Riku 420, raiding with a party of 3. Welcome in, raiders. We are, actually, let me take a moment here, as a matter of fact. Hold on. I'm still new with this, hold on. I'm trying to... What? Welcome in, raiders. What's up, bud? Let me tell you. We've got some Mythos Monday. We're back once again with Witch on the Holy Night. If you're not caught up on the story, we are well into it, so I don't blame you if you don't want to stick around for spoiler purposes. But also, announced today, we've got stream avatars set up. So anybody with a subscription to the channel, or anybody who'd like to subscribe to the channel, wink wink, nudge nudge, you can get your own stream avatar live on stream and play and hang out during the reading streams we've got going on this week. Because today, as well as the rest of this week, I'm going to be reading and narrating stories in honor of Valentine's Day. Need I gift more? Need? No, but... yeah, that's up to you, I guess. You always frighten me, Gilgamesh, when you say things like that. I don't know how to react. But anyway, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome on in. I hope you guys had a good stream, all that jazz. Get some rest if you need. I know, streaming can be pretty stressful. That 50 is very... That 50 is very not that 50. Don't drop 50 on me, bro. I'm not gonna be able to handle it. We're not finished with this chapter of the story yet. I still have to finish reading. He said need, not mead. Mead I gift more? That wouldn't make any sense. Anyway, yes, as part of Romance Week, we're going to be doing reading and narration streams all week long. So if you're interested in that, drop a follow, and you'll be notified every time I go live this week. I was just done playing Metal Gear Rising for the first time. Oh, I love that fucking game, dude. How did you like it? Bro, Metal Gear Rise, it's a meme game, but like, bro, it's fucking good. It's so much fun to play. I like action games myself, so I think technically Rising was my first Metal Gear game, much to Crim's chagrin, I'm sure. But then I went back and played the original series, so I know how we got there. On the 4th mission, it's an experience, all right. Oh yeah, it's an experience. Right now I have a sudden need to drink a mead. Yeah, me too, bro. I've had mead like once ever. I gotta something I gotta pick up more often. It's hard to find good ones around here, I think. Memories broken, the truth goes unspoken. Yeah, dude, fucking Rising's so much fun. I'll start making my own. That's yeah. I see a lot of people on TikTok making their own mead and stuff. Saw a guy doing Mountain Dew wine or something. That's fucking crazy. Anyway, thanks again for the raid. Let's say we get back to it. Let me. There we go. And back to the corner. I just recently got a Stream Deck, so I'm getting used to pushing the buttons in the right order. If there's a place that sells meat kits, I'll DM you on Discord. Okay, cool. Not that I need another hobby, but you know, it's it's interesting. Fun fact, Mountain Dew was originally made to be a vodka mixer. I can see that. In fact, I've used it for that purpose on occasion. Alright, shall we return to the story? There was a hint of irritation in Alice's voice. I'm not done yet. Just one more, okay? Aoko begged Alice, hands together, trembling from the cold. It was rare to see her act this childish. No doubt Tobimaru would consider this behavior more strange than cute if he were here. From the end of the platform, Aoko peered into the creeping darkness to where the tracks led. You have the strangest taste. Never mind, it's gone forever? Oh, that's unfortunate. Damn. Alice muttered, sitting on the bench with forbearance. Any other day, and she would have been fine heading back by herself. But today, she was in a good mood and decided to humor Aoko. Knowing full well that her rare spells of positivity were about as fragile and fresh as freshly fallen snow, she hoped to go home while she was still in high spirits. Eyes closed, her placid demeanor conveyed her feelings well enough. Thus, the two of them waited on the platform alone for a subway train they had no intention of riding. The subway had recently opened for service. The people of Misaki were humble folk, and for now, few passengers were drawn to the novelty and high prices of the new train. Thanks to the low foot traffic, the platform was still as good as new. There was something primeval about a subway devoid of people. It was a picture of tranquility, free of human interference. Not just silent, but lifeless. This was a realm unmolested by living creatures, where only speechless organisms dwelt. The harshly artificial fluorescent lighting underscored its soullessness. It was a cave where light ended and shadows began, where riderless vessels disappeared into the dark. The platform was wedged between two tracks, like a jetty built upon a subterranean sea. In this place, far removed from the world above, Aoko waited with eyes closed for the familiar rumble. It was she who had proposed that they delay their return and rest at the platform. The reason was simple. Aoko Aozaki enjoyed the soothing sound of passing subway trains. I probably won't get to see any more live bands this year, so at least let me have this. She had said to Alice, her eyes still closed. Alice had neither nodded nor objected, and so they'd watched 3 trains come and go. Silence fell again. Aoko waited for the next train with anticipation. Alice sat and stared at the tunnel wall patiently. According to the display board, the next train was due to arrive in 5 minutes. From the dark tunnel came wind and rumbling. A purposefully placed bounded field now surrounded the platform. There was no sign of any station personnel, and the entrances and exits were few and narrow. The lack of bystanders made the field hardly necessary. Suddenly, 6 figures appeared in front of the stairs to the surface. They all shared the same face. Motionless and with smiles like the crescent moon, they stared at Aoko and Alice. I can't believe I missed that. Alice let out a quiet, dejected sigh. Alice? What's wrong? Must you ask? Didn't you notice that you and I were the only ones to get off at this station? I mean, the subway is usually pretty dead anyway, so... Aoko trailed off, tutting in annoyance. If you have time tomorrow, you should play a cute short HVN or 2, like, romance detective? Perhaps. The official schedule for tomorrow is a few Bullfinch mythology stories, and Thursday is going to be Romeo and Juliet. But we might be able to shift some stuff around. So, what tipped you off? The impending gloom I felt a moment ago. I'm not entirely blaming you. This wouldn't have happened if we were a better team. Enough sniveling. They traded stoic and calm words, never moving or making eye contact. In contrast, the figures near the stairs began to stir. As though regressing from primates to wild beasts, they dropped prone in unison and scrambled forth like man-sized ants. They advanced as a stream, one after the other. Soon the clattering came not just from the platform entrances, but from the subway tunnel as well. I don't like it. At a glance, they numbered at least 30 strong. The eerie skittering multiplied, echoing off the subway walls. This is ridiculous. Forget Misaki. When this many automata, you could take over all of southern France. True, but I doubt there would be much demand for dolls of such poor quality. Junk is junk, after all. One of the horde leapt forward in response to Aoko's insult. It was a sudden charge, like a hurtling dump truck. Alice remained still. As though expecting the attack, Aoko swung her right arm in an arc. The blue missile of light was easily repelled. Her magic bullet, Snap, had little to no effect on the puppets. They scrambled over each other like frogs, heads jerking and twisting in search of prey. I count 30 total. Sorry, Alice, but I'm gonna need you to hang back. I can't have you thinking last time was my best. As she spoke to Alice, who was still sitting on a bench, Aoko stepped toward the edge of the platform. Among the myriad regrets she still had from the amusement park, the House of Mirrors stung the most. She had been caught off guard in her last battle against that puppet, but today she'd come prepared, and she had Alice as backup. Aoko ignited her magic crest. This time, she would restore her honor and... Get behind me, Aoko. It'll eat you too if you stand there. All it took to stop Aoko was one raised finger. Alice, wait, you can't. In the depths of the ocean black, the bells of night chimed out. The jetty, as if embraced by a sea god like Poseidon or Wadatsumi, became awash with white. White motes, which seemed to engulf everything. I'm sure everybody's heard of Poseidon before, but here is a neat little tidbit that I actually learned very recently. Wadatsumi is the sea god, sometimes referred to as the water dragon. The very same water dragon that we saw when we played Okami. The water dragon king's name was Wadatsumi. I only made that connection after having played the game, and then I found out, oh, there's a story about this Wadatsumi, the water god. This is my jam. This is what I do. This is what I live for, is shit like this. You always leave a mess, Aoko. Not to mention the next train will be arriving soon, and... Behind the white veil, her form blurred and stretched upward. She was like a melancholy ballerina. The figures surrounding the prima ballerina bristled in response to the strange aura. Though puppets were inhuman mystical vessels, they had far more reason to fear Alice than they did the human Aoko. They began to flee. Whoever their master was, they sensed enough danger to order a retreat. However, it was too late. The dancers were captivated by their prima, transfixed in place as if their Achilles tendons had been severed. Besides, it wasn't just you who ruined my mood. She removed her black glove. Unlike her subdued demeanor at the mansion, Alice's aura away from home was a biting, frigid blizzard that none could approach. Her discarded gloves floated down, settling on the platform deck. The pale haze grew even thicker. Terrified, the mass of shadows cried out for mercy. Now, let us play make-believe. Within the nebulous mist, a dark fairy tale came to life. Inside that fog, Only the macabre melody of her voice felt real. Feast, grind, crunch. At last, the final puppet fell. On the walls, on the floor, on the ceiling. The grotesque, mechanical sounds of their demise filled the air. Their twisted shrieks plastered the subway surfaces like indelible bloodstains. Some amorphous abomination had, hastily, yet just slowly enough to savor the taste, chewed and devoured all 30 puppets. Only a lone, severed arm remained on the platform.
持ってきてたのあれ
You had that thing on you this whole time? Aoko spoke sideways to Alice, making no attempt to hide her disgust. The brutal gluttony they'd just witnessed had a name. It was the Beast of the Fog, one of her 3 great ploys kickshaw. The Mainster's Rosehound, Vandersnatch. Aoko's words stung, since Alice was the one harboring its true form. I'm gonna have to look into the Vandersnatch. It sounds like the Bandersnatch from Alice in Wonderland, ironically enough. I don't know if there's any relation. Mythology I'm good with. Fairy tales and stuff I'm a little hazy, only because there's so many. Always willing to learn more. Just gotta do some more studying. The great 3 ploys wielded terrifyingly powerful curses. While Vandersnatch had its uses in combat, Aoko was not at all amused to learn that her companion had been carrying it around town all day. Without hyperbole, it was akin to going out for dinner with a bunker buster bomb in one's pocket. Just tell me next time, okay? Other ploys are fine, but not that one. Try to leave it at home, would you? I apologize. It's just that I haven't let him feed lately, so... Alice walked slowly toward the severed arm. Indeed, all she'd done was feed her ploy. No one had died, and no blood had been shed, since the meal was made of plastic. Aoko, over here. Alice picked up the arm and beckoned Aoko over. Look at this. Until now, we were thinking our opponent was a puppet master, but I think we were wrong. Can you see it? These puppets are too new. They must have been made no earlier than the 17th century. Even that seems hard to believe. What did you just say? Although it sounded counterintuitive, automata typically performed better with age. Since the 17th century, the magical concept of using puppets and mannequins had declined. Consequentially, it became much harder to produce combat-effective automata. If one wanted to build an automaton these days, it was far more cost-effective to train even a low-class familiar, and it would be better constructed, too. Therefore, it was common for modern puppet masters to collect parts made before the 17th century and use them in their creations. The high price of automata often came not from their antiquated combat abilities, but from the rarity of the parts used to make them. Despite that, the enemy mage controlling these puppets used them as fodder, as if they grew on trees. The only conclusion to be drawn was that their current opponent was a spoiled upstart with wealth but no territory. Or so Alice and Aoko imagined, anyway.
それともう一つ
There's something else.
この構造は
The internal formulae
ミサキ氏の結界に似ている
remind me of Misaki's bounded field.
まるで自分たちこそ
It's as if their marker is asserting that these are the rightful defenders of our city. Alice presented the evidence to Aoko, who was still waving fog out of her face. The revelation stirred profound surprise, and then rapid realization.
そう
I
そうい
see.
うことなのね
Now I get it. Aoko growled, violently smashing the arm on the ground. Her face twisted with anger and a hint of fear.
惜しげもなく骨
She
董
didn't
品を
bother
出して
holding
くる
back
と
any of
思ったら
her knickknacks
そも
because
そ
they
も
weren't
出し惜
worth
しむほ
keeping
どの
in
ものじゃな
reserve
か
to
ったわけ
begin
だ
with.
確かに
That's
あ
why
の
the
女な
town's
ら
barrier didn't
町
have
の
any
結界
effect
にも
on her,
反応しないし
and how she
私
knew
の
my
欠点も知
weaknesses.
ってて当然
No wonder she
支
found and
店の
removed
大
the
工だって
sigil
簡
so
単にや
easily.
ってのけるわよねだって
I should have known. Alice quietly listened to Aoko's furious rambling, bemused.
青子
Aoko,
これを作ったの
so you're saying the one who made these is none other than...
ええ
That's right.
昔から物を作るこ
When
と
it
に
came
関
to
して
making
ずば抜けて
things,
いたからね
she always had
あ
me
の人
beat.
は
Aoko glared at the severed arm. She was furious at its creator, and herself for taking so long to figure it out.
でも
But it
よ
all
うや
adds
く合
up
点がいった
now.
認めたくないけ
As
ど
much as I hate to admit
今
it,
回の敵は
our current
間違い
enemy
なく
is my
私の
big
兄貴
sister. No doubt about it. I leave for 2 seconds and $30 turns into a severed arm. How did you miss that?
この土地の元継承者
She's the one who was meant to inherit our land, Alice. The desolate subway platform returned to silence. Aoko's words lingering uncomfortably in the air. I'm sorry, that was just a very weighty realization, and then we got hit with cartoon crocodile. I don't think I've ever experienced a more distinct feeling of tonal whiplash. Yowza. A short time ago at the Kuonji estate, the videotape finished playing. The VCR had automatically stopped playback, foregoing the need to hit the stop button and avoid the static storm. What remained on screen was the reflection of Sojiro and Toko Aozaki, sitting opposite each other in conversation.
秘密を知られたから先生
A
たちの
direct
直
attack
接
without
攻
warning
撃
because her secret was exposed.
怪
Aoko
獣
never
作を
did
考
play
えも
well
し
with
ないの
others.
は青子らしいけど
It was hard to tell if she was being patronizing or indifferent. Toko Aozaki took a sip from her cup as she listened to Sojiro's story. She would have savored the anecdote about the amusement park kerfuffle were it not for the poor excuse for a cup of tea in her hands.
ありがとう参考に
Thank
な
you
った
for
わ
that. I feel so informed.
ここしばらく青子と
I
は
haven't seen
顔を合
Aoko
わ
in
せていな
ages,
か
so
ったか
I
ら
can only imagine the
あ
kind
の
of
子が
woman
どんな
she's
風
grown
に成
into.
長したかなんて想像するしかなかったしそれと
And as her sister, the least I can do is apologize. I'm sorry you had to experience such a tragic event, Sojuro. That girl does have a tendency to be rather headstrong. You said it. Sojuro was enjoying the conversation, despite having to relive those events. About an hour passed by while the two of them sat in conversation, neither short on topics to discuss. Aoko was an easy topic for both of them, so the conversation centered mostly around her. What the fuck, there's two Sojuros? Only for that one instance. It's fine, don't worry about it. By the way, I've been curious about something, and I hope you don't mind me asking. While she kept her posture dignified, Toko's eyes shone with eager curiosity. Her elegance caused Sojiro's heart to beat a little faster. Curious? About what? Despite his caution, he found himself speaking politely. She smiled affectionately, as if she found him pleasing. Well, you see, you surprised me the last time when you ran away, but today I'm surprised by something new. Is that some kind of in vogue fashion accessory? Come again? Toko tilted her head, her eyes fixated on the collar that Aoko had snugly secured around his neck. Is that a new style of choker? You know, I could swear it was a... The bespectacled woman made a show of holding her tongue. On a completely unrelated note, in another decade, similar accessories would become a standard part of any visual kei artist's wardrobe. No way they fucking brought up the fact that collars would in fact become standard fashion in another decade. That's awesome. That's hilarious, actually. That is really, really funny. This is great. I love this. Oh, not at all. It's obviously a collar. For dogs. I knew it. It's rather charming and very much suits you, I might add. Did you put it on yourself? Toko stared intently, examining the strap. While he had never been very conscious of the collar till now, for some reason, Sojiro found himself blushing. Yes, I put it on by myself. No, silly. I mean, who gave it to you? Was it Aoko? Or perhaps Miss Kuonji? Aoko gave it to me. Toko nodded in satisfaction at Sojiro's candid response. That makes you Aoko's property. She coldly muttered. With this, the cordial atmosphere began to turn. Sojiro nodded, naturally oblivious to the edge in her words. She does like to own things. The blunt observation made Toko burst out laughing. Apparently Toko was the quirky type of person to laugh when least appropriate. As her laugh tapered off into a giggle, she picked up her now empty teacup. So, this must belong to Aoko as well. How funny, considering she hates blue things on account of the blue character in her name. Not the XD kind of quirky. Well, maybe not the XD kind of quirky, who knows? Yeah, that's right. Would you like another cup? I'm not sure when they'll be back. No, thank you. Actually, they'll be returning shortly, as I calculated. Sojiro nodded along heedlessly. Finally, The strangeness of her phrasing dawned on him, and he tilted his head in confusion.
トウコさん
Miss Toko. Toko sighed once.
ごめんね、宗十郎君。
Forgive me, Sojiro, but would you allow me to take off my glasses? He wondered why she would need to ask his permission, but nodded anyway.
それじゃあお言葉に
That's very kind of you.
もう少しぐらいは
Though I do wish I could have enjoyed more of your hospitality. Does she have fucking mystic eyes? Do we get to talk about mystic eyes? Toko touched the temples of her glasses. If one were to look closely enough, one might have noticed the scars on her slender fingers. That was a Freudian slip if I've ever made one. They were small, fine scars from years of repeated cuts. Before her fingers even left the eyeglass frames, the spectacles crumbled. It happened so fast that Sojiro barely registered it. The frame cracked into pieces, sliding down her face and into her lap. She reads too many books, paper cuts. I think they're actually glass cuts from shattering too many pairs of glasses. Yeah, Mystic Eye. I think we did actually go over Mystic Eyes a little bit in an earlier chapter, if I recall correctly. But I just like the concept. That's Mystic Eyes is really cool. Which reminds me, I need to look into the Lord El Malloy stuff, because I think that deals primarily with Mystic Eyes, or at least the part that was adapted into anime. I didn't look into it because I knew that I wasn't. You weren't there. Aw. Sooner or later, I'll figure out a way for the VODs. I've been exporting the VODs of every stream onto my YouTube. I just have them privated. Eventually, I'll kind of figure out how I want to organize that. And then you can go back and watch all the earlier episodes. She read too many VN computer chip cuts. Lamau. Ah.
やるもんだ。30体を一瞬とも。
Kudos to you, sister. 30 in one go. Not bad. The low voice belonged to someone entirely different. All she had done was take off her glasses, but her elegant grace had completely faded. Any semblance of warmth and kindness had disappeared. Sitting upon the sofa was a deplorable mage, her very presence darkening the room. I'd like to take a moment and address that in a lot of specifically Japanese media, the removal of one's glasses does in fact elicit a change in personality. It's almost mythological, and it's almost background knowledge that people who wear glasses have two personalities. You see this with a character in Hellsing. You've seen this just now. You see it with funnily enough, you see it with the servant in Fate Grand Order, Dr. Jekyll. Hate more for this if you want, but Superman, technically, yeah, that's a little different though. That's less, that's more disguised. This is more treated more like an actual split personality. In Gintama, Shinpachi's glasses are his personality. I'm not familiar with Gintama. I mean, I know what it is. I'm not familiar with it, but I'll take your word for it. Yeah, the servant, the assassin class servant, Dr. Jekyll, when using his noble phantasm in Fate Grand Order, transforms into the berserker class servant Mr. Hyde, who does not wear glasses, where Dr. Jekyll does. He specifically in the animation takes off his glasses. That's not a coincidence. I do like Jekyll and Hyde. I like that he's included. It's just I don't know, you know, I like characters. Characters are cool. Jekyll and Hyde is cool. Having read the actual novella, A Curious Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it doesn't really hold up, only because the whole point of the story was, oh, they're the same person, whereas it's so old and so overdone now, we go in with that knowledge, so the twist is lost, which is really a shame. Anyway, why don't we focus on the split personality at hand? The wolf in the henhouse, as it were. Sojiro sat speechless. Across from him was a completely changed Toko, glaring back at him menacingly. More malice and magical energy was now emanating from Toko than when Aoko had tried to kill Sojiro. She seemed titillated at the prospect of the boy's shock at her transformation. Such expectations, however, were often left unfulfilled when it came to Sojiro. You broke your glasses. Sojiro blurted out in surprise. Her hand stopped as she reached for a cigarette, the wind taken out of her sails. That was unfortunate. Do you have another pair? And I feel one main antagonist is the One-san character all along. This is why emotos are better. Typically, I'd be inclined to disagree, but I really like Aoko better than Toko so far. Granted, Toko hasn't had a lot of screen time, so... No, forget them. It's not as if I actually need them to see correctly. As long as myself exists, data is received subjectively by my five senses. The entire world is in a fog. You shouldn't trust what you can only see with your eyes. Her speech had taken on a clinical tone. This, too, did not seem to shake Sojiro. Right. So what you're saying is... Sojiro began forming another question, unflinchingly. Toko scowled, as if she'd found a bug in her food. After some consideration, she came to the conclusion she needed to be blunt with the boy. By some twist of fate, it was a headache she now unknowingly shared with her sister. It's like this, Sojiro. I placed some obstacles in Aoko's way. I'm only here now because she's still dealing with them. As I mentioned, you are merely her property. So I won't worry that pretty little head of yours. I must confess, dear Sojiro, I am your enemy. I hate to ruin the vibe, but I did notice there are two R's in that sentence. Though he understood her words, the clock's second hand would rotate fully twice over before anyone next spoke. They sat across from each other, eyes locked. Sojiro's shoulders tightened nervously. He had finally understood the true danger of the situation. Surprised? Toko asked with a grin. She was still the same woman, but without her glasses, Toko's smile was rather sinister. Even though you're Aozaki's sister? Her smile pierced him as he asked the obvious. Toko was no longer surprised that Sojiro would be more concerned about the safety of others than his own. In just one short hour, she had come to understand Sojiro Shizuki better than he knew himself. On the contrary, it's because I'm her sister. I'm obligated to take away what is hers. I won't stop until I crush every last thing she holds physically and emotionally dear. For instance, if she has come to rely on this city, then I will happily go so far as to destroy it. But you, I wasn't expecting you. Toko, her eyes closed, felt sorrow. Behind her troubled expression, there was a silent conflict. I don't know if I should rage at the impartiality of the world, or lament the serendipity of life. I suppose it's all part of the counterforce. Gilgamesh, I'm looking at you. Fucking counterforce name dropped. Holy shit. Innocent outsiders get killed all the time in this world of ours, but I've never met anyone quite like you. Or rather, never imagined a guy like you could exist. Toko sighed at the ceiling and stirred in her seat. She seemed to have overcome an unexpected moment of uncertainty. You don't look like Aoko's ace in the hole. You're just a dim but nice stranger, too pitiful to put out of his misery. But as much as I want to leave you be, my sixth sense is screaming that I should erase you here and now and be done with it. More plainly put, she had made up her mind to kill him. Though Sojiro was somewhat flattered at how grossly she inflated his importance, he was struck by the karmic irony. Toko had arrived at the same conclusion as her sister. However, this was no time for idle thoughts. Sojiro readied himself to stand up from the sofa in such a way as to not draw attention to the plans so clearly written all over his face, to make a run for it. Silly boy, don't give yourself away like that. If you're going to run, then run. But if you value your life, then don't move a muscle. In other words, you won't make it halfway to the door before I get you. Now be a good boy and sit still. So you're not going to kill me? For the time being. I like you, kid. Well, not exactly. The truth is, I might be the only one who can save you. What? She looked the perplexed Sojiro straight in the eyes. Though actually brown, her eyes gleamed a piercing red like the edge of a blade. She does have mystic eyes. It was at this moment an overwhelming sense of dizziness overcame Sojiro. His mind went numb, like he couldn't tell who he was. It was like drifting into a sinister sleep from which he'd never wake. Sojiro clenched his jaw, desperate to maintain consciousness. Toko's eyes devoured him like a bottomless pit of quicksand. In that moment, it all became clear to him. It no longer mattered that she was Aoko's sister, or that she was Alice's sworn enemy. Toko Aozaki's deadly battle with the girls had become his battle. Which is why, when you find yourself feeling a special spark for a stranger met mere moments ago, that feeling is not to be trusted. You may simply be attempting to fill a void shaped like yourself with more emptiness. Sojiro tried to drag his body away from his heretofore unencountered sense of danger, but found that it would not respond. Toko tilted her head forward at him, eyes fixated on his. Your instincts weren't wrong. You do have something in common with me. Or maybe you're just close to me. Maybe we're picky about all the same foods. It's something to consider. The problem is you are more biased than I am. Biased. She clearly used a different definition of the word than the one Sojiro knew. Biased. It meant that he was alone, that he was an outsider who didn't belong in this town. A sudden and seething anger eclipsed his gentle heart. But I'm not alone. Sojiro shot back with all the enmity he could muster. As he faced this witch named Toko Aozaki. If he had not, he feared he would never escape her gaze. See? That's precisely what makes you biased. And the sooner you realize that, the better. It's the fastest way out of your predicament. Humans are hardy creatures. No matter what life throws at them, they find a way to survive. But Aoko can't tolerate them, because she's the sort of stranger who can't stand anything. Toko leaned over the table. She reached out, grabbed Sojiro's collar, and roughly pulled him toward her. But enough about her. All I care about is getting to have you. In fact, I wanted you from the moment you mumbled your name like it's not even yours. I want you with your lack of self-awareness and your sense of powerlessness. The future must seem like such a foreign concept to someone like you. Your mind inevitably looks to the past. But just as moi, the lesser self, comes before soi, the greater self, the normal flow of time will always reject time travel. It's the same for me as it is for you. I've done it again, haven't I? How could you possibly even begin to... Toko trailed off mid-sentence. As she pulled Sojiro closer, her own eyes reflected in his, she noticed the merciful expression on her face. Sojiro got to thinking. He held no hostility towards this woman. He bore her no grudge, harbored no desire to kill her. He was aware only of his anger and aimless compassion. He wished that he could give her the answers she wanted. But I don't really know what you're talking about. Sojiro replied apologetically. A verbal reply to the visible question he perceived in her eyes. Toko showed no sign of disappointment. Instead, the corners of her lips turned upward in delight. Of course, you wouldn't comprehend the language of magecraft. And here I am trying to wax philosophical to you. How foolish of me. Small courtesies can have the opposite effect after all. I should have put it in plainer, more primitive terms. Oh, I do like you, Sojiro. Her fingers dug into his throat as if she were tearing at the leather. Perhaps he could be hers if only she could rip it off. Sweet boy, leave Aoko and be with me. I may not have a use for you, but at least I can protect you. Or maybe if I'm bored, you could be my plaything. It had taken many approaches, but she seemed to have decided on this one. The lengths to which she went to seduce him were not lost on Sojiro, and truth be told, they were not wholly unwelcome. Same. But back to the matter at hand. I respectfully decline. Sojiro chose the direct response, as he did. Why? Because it wouldn't be good for you. He had confidence in that, at least. Toko's overestimation of him aside, Sojiro knew for a fact that he had to escape this woman's clutches. This tete-a-tete could only be concluded by one of its two participants, Toko, or the individual she was currently infatuated with. On a hunch, the boy mustered all the conviction he could feign. She gently removed her hand from his collar and jabbed him in the chest, causing him to topple back onto the sofa. Very well, if that's the way it must be. I'll just have to think of you as Aoko's personal property, then. The scarred red mage quietly stood up. Well, Aoko will be here any moment. I'd best be on my way. She has no chance of defeating me. Tell her that for me, won't you? Sure, but... Before she left the room, Toko paused to let Sojiro continue. Like a student humbly inquiring of a teacher, Sojiro pointed to the object in Toko's hand and asked, what are you going to do with that cup? Surprised, she looked down at the teacup in her right hand that she had forgotten she was holding. She hadn't even realized that she had been holding the cup the entire time. Oh, this? I might as well take it with me. The act of taking something without the owner's permission, is commonly referred to as theft. However, this was more likely the typical relationship between Aoko and Toko. Share and share alike, and so forth. Sojiro nodded to show that he understood. Unsure if his nod was sincere or not, Toko smiled that gleeful grin for the second time since taking her glasses off. You certainly are an odd one. The question of your worth aside. For just a moment, she had returned to the affable Toko Aozaki he met before the glasses came off. Leaving him with the image of her smile, she departed the mansion. Her broken glasses remained on the drawing room table. We're home! No sooner had the eerie visitor left, did Aoko and Alice return home. Despite Aoko's sour mood, she seemed as merry as ever. Despite everything that had happened, and their trip having its fair share of problems, she still had fun. Whereas Alice was her usual stoic self, her manner not unlike a parent following behind a rampaging toddler, cleaning up their mess. The scene of their return was like something out of a TV sitcom, and, lost in thought, Sojiro forgot to greet them. Did anything happen while we were out, Sojiro? Aoko asked, more so out of etiquette than curiosity, while removing her coat. Without answering, he stood up from the sofa. Yeah, it took up half of my day, actually. Other than that, it was just cold. Want me to make some tea? Yes, please. You can't plan anything without a hot cup of tea in your hands. Sojiro was on his way to the kitchen to prepare tea even before Aoko had finished her upbeat response. Wait a minute. Something feels off. He was following his same tea brewing routine as always, but somehow, something did not feel the same. As though in a trance, Sojiro returned to the drawing room, where they were settling down, and placed the tea on the table. What do you intend to do now, Aoko? We'll have to search for her on foot. You can't play this one defensively. If we spend time fortifying defenses here, she'll just have more time to create more puppets. They conversed with each other while ignoring Sojuro's presence. Upon hearing what they said, he stood up and spoke abruptly.
探すってトウコさん
Are you going to look for Miss Toko?
それ以外誰を探す
Yeah, who else would we...
ちょっと
Wait,
あんた
what did you just say?
トウコさんなんだろ
Toko.
青崎たちの敵
She's your enemy, right?
さ
You
っきま
just
で
missed
ここ
her.
にいたよ
He answered so casually, Aoko standing there dumbfounded. Alice stood up from the sofa and went to where the two of them were standing. Her typically kind and somber features turned reproachable.
しずきくん
Shizuki,
その人
tell me exactly what she did when she was here.
お茶を飲んで
We
メ
drank
ガ
some
ネを
tea.
外して帰っていった
Then
だ
she
けだ
took
け
off her
ど
glasses.
あれ
Huh.
よく思い出せないな
I can't remember anything after that. What was once a clear memory seemed to have been scrubbed clean from his mind. Sojiro was overcome by the same dizziness he had felt earlier. A sharp, dry smack echoed through the room. What snapped him out of his haze was an unexpected slap from Alice.
二度は言わないわ
I won't warn you
他
again.
人を
Never let
私の家に
anyone else into my
立ち入らせない。
house. Deep within her eyes, beyond the normal cool indifference, was an intense fury. Realizing, however, that it was no ordinary anger, Sojiro understood how careless he had been.
すまない
I'm sorry.
アリスにとってここが大事な
This
場所な
place
の
is
は
very important to
分
you.
かってたのに
I should have known better. A heavy silence followed. Both Sojiro and Alice stood there, chained to the spot by their own regret. Aoko looked on in amazement, wondering if they would stay this way all night if left alone.
あのね
So hey, I know Sojiro screwed up by letting my sister in, but Alice, you never told him he shouldn't.
子供じゃないんだから
We're not children anymore, so how about we put this behind us and focus on the problem at hand, okay? Alice hung her head and sat back down at Aoko's insistence. Sojiro stood where he was, nursing his stinging right cheek. Pain was pain, but he knew how to take a knock. More to the point, the crisp strike from Alice snapped him out of his fog, jogging his memory.
思い出した
I remember.
青子じゃ私には勝て
She
ない
told me to tell you
伝えておい
that
て
you
ほしい
have no chance of defeating her, Aoko.
ふん大した自信ね
Pretty full of herself.
他には
Anything else?
他は
She also said,
基本的に世間話だ
well,
った
most of it was small talk.
あ
To be honest, she said a lot of other stuff I didn't really
よくわからないこと
understand.
を口にしてたな
Considering the small talk was mostly about Aoko and her flaws, Sojiro decided it would be better to take that part to his grave.
大河とショーガ
She mentioned the greater and lesser
イ
self.
ンドにでも行ってたのかしら
I wonder if she's been to India. Oh, so I definitely butchered the pronunciation on that, huh? It's probably moi and soy. For a moment, I thought she was speaking French, but it didn't have the accent, so I was a little confused.
ところで宗十郎
In case you didn't catch on, Sojiro,
姉貴に何
she
か
must
され
have
た
done something to you. Aoko turned to him, glaring sharply. He had nothing to be ashamed of, but he looked away guiltily anyway.
何かって
She did?
何さ
What did she do, exactly?
思い出せない
You said you couldn't
とか言ってた
remember
でしょ
what she said, right?
さっきまで
And
の
up,
態度も
up
ふ
until
わ
a
ふわして
second
たし
ago, you looked like a zombie.
そうか
I see.
メガネを外したまでは
You
覚え
remember
てる
right up to when she took her glasses
裸眼
off,
にでも見られ
which
た
means you must have been entranced by her mystic eyes. There it is. She said it. As quickly as she had jumped to that conclusion, Aoko went quiet again, as if the information was of little importance. But it was not enough to detract Sojiro from bringing it up again.
青崎
Aozaki, what are mystic eyes? Eyes infused with magical energy. Simple forms of mystic eyes can cause temporary confusion, while more advanced ones can kill with just a glance. Stuff like that. Yeah, eyes like Baylor's are really just the stuff of legends. If there were eyes like that, we could really use them right about now. Alright, motherfuckers, I get to talk about this one. Holy shit, fucking Baylor? That's a cut. I'm gonna get a book. Okay, let me see. I have tabbed the hell out of this book. Oh, I actually don't even know if it's in this one. I'm so excited. You guys have no idea. Fucking Baylor. Book of Invasions. That might be too late. I'm not sure. Baylor. No, I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Hold on, hold on. Baylor is... I can't find it in this book. Baylor is a Fomorian. The Fomorians are essentially trolls or ogres. They're a people. They're one of the many peoples of Ireland from the Book of Invasions. Baylor specifically, was... Oh, that's why. Baylor specifically had basically heat vision, and he was terrorizing a town until, if I'm not mistaken, Finn McCool came along and battled Baylor and defeated him, saving the town and making a name for himself. I'm trying to find it in this book that I've got. Do I have that wrong? I don't think so. Let me... I'm actually going to fucking look this up. And you can't stop me, because it's my stream. No, I'm wrong. It's not Finn McCool. Finn McCool was somebody else. I could have sworn. In fact, the man who killed Baylor, the king of the Fomorians at one time, was none other than his own grandson, the god Lu of the Tuatha Dé Danann. The god Lu of the Tuatha Dé Danann is also the father of one Cu Chulainn, aka Lancer, aka Conla's father. So, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Let me put my book back on my shelf. Anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my hyperfixation with Celtic mythology. We just spent like 10 minutes interrupting this fucking story that we're reading so I could read a different story, and I still fucked it up because I gotta brush up on my stuff. I haven't actually looked at source material for a long time. It's all been just in my brain. Baylor? Yes, Baylor! Bro, you're back! You missed it by 1 second. I got up and pulled a book off my shelf talking about Baylor, dude. Baylor, Laser Eye Fomorian, slain by Lu Tuatha, father of Cuchulainn, father of me, Conla. All one big circle. I'm having a great day, man. I get to talk about mythology. This is so exciting. Yeah, we're talking about Mystic Eyes and Baylor. Happy Mythos Monday indeed. Without further context, Aoko knew her explanation was completely lost on Sojiro. I feel like Aoko in this situation. Except Gilgamesh knows what I'm talking about, because he's a fucking homie. So, yeah. To put it simply, it's like my magic bullet, only you use your eyes to shoot it. Like the fucking Sharingan. You can shoot bullets from your eyes? Sojiro's confusion deepened along with Aoko's frustration. Anyway, you looked into Toko's eyes after she blinked once, right? That's the moment she put the whammy on you with her mystic eyes. Yeah, you could taste the facepalm on that one. Some mages even replace their eyes with cat's eye stones, but my sister doesn't need to bother with that. She was born with hers. She doesn't even need to say anything to use them. She can just blink like a camera shutter. Sojiro pounded his fist in understanding. Now that he thought about it, he vaguely remembered her doing something exactly like that. Everything after was foggy and muddled, and her mystic eyes seemed the only logical cause. That's one mystery solved. But Aozaki, isn't she your sister? Why would sisters try to kill each other? He knew it was not something he should ask, but he did it anyway. The question was against the rules. He had no business being involved in this dispute. Aoko closed her eyes to collect her thoughts. She decided it was best for all involved to at least share some background information, if only to head off further questions. Fine. Here's what you need to know now that you've met her. Besides, keeping you in the dark would be more dangerous. But no more questions. This is my story to tell. Got it? In the moonlit world, many reasons could be the explanation. She stared down Sojiro until he nodded slowly in recognition. Knowing him, she knew this was confirmation enough. The conversation was becoming oddly friendly again, but Aoko sat up a little straighter as she prepared to tell the tale. Before we talk about my sister, I have to explain the Aozaki family, and more importantly, magecraft versus magic. We're going to cover a lot of ground, and it'll include stuff you can't tell anyone. We can always wipe your memories later, so it's fine. Aoko made sure to add that disclaimer as a condition for telling him the information in the first place. Oh boy, we're gonna get some Fucking world building.
魔術っていうのはね、宗十郎。
You see, Sojiro, magecraft follows a set of common rules.
ルーンやカバラといった
There are different schools of magecraft, such as runes or
世界
Kabbalah.
共通のマニュアルだと思えばいい。
Think of them as different textbooks or manuals that the whole world uses.
教科書さえきちんと持っているのなら
Anyone that has a proper textbook and a suitable bloodline can become a mage.
けど
But using magic is something else entirely.
魔法は魔術みたいに
Magic,
根源
true
の渦から
magic,
派生した写本じゃ
isn't
なく
just
て
some manuscript derived from the swirl of the root like magecraft is, but something that comes directly from the root itself.
この根源の渦っていう
As
の
for
は
the swirl of the root, well,
あー宗十郎
the
の分かる
simplest
レベ
way
ル
I
に
can
落とし込む
describe
と
it, so you'll understand, is to compare it to the sun.
遠くにあって
The sun is really far away
それなくし
and
て
has
は
been
私た
there
ち
from
は
the
生活でき
beginning
ない
as far as
と言
we're
った
concerned. Without it, you and I wouldn't be able to live.
魔術っていうのはこの太陽からの恩
Magecraft
恵を
merely
利用
lets us
しただ
take
けの
advantage of the sun's benefits, so to speak.
自然現象の魔
Magecraft
法
is all about imitating or paying for a natural phenomena.
神秘を学び
We can use it to study, practice, and recreate mystics, mysteries, but we can never truly create them.
いえ研究の末にた
Actually,
どり着
no
くん
matter
でしょう
how
けど
much you learn,
そ
you
こには大
eventually
きな
hit a
壁が
wall.
ある
It's like a
人知
limiter
の超
that
えられ
human
ない
knowledge
リ
can
ミッター
never
みたいな壁
overcome.
がねで魔法っていう
And
のは
beyond that
太
wall
陽
is
そのも
where
のを
magic,
扱うこ
the
と
sun itself, exists.
誰にも到達でき
To
ない場所
attain
に行
it
って
means to go where no one can go,
何者にも真似
and
できない奇
awaken
跡を起
miracles
こす
no one could possibly reproduce.
お金をかけよう
A
が時間を
technique
か
to
けよう
make
が
things happen that
今の
humanity
人類
could
に
never
到達
hope
でき
to
ない技術
accomplish with any
それが
amount of
魔法
time or resources. That's true magic.
次元の壁を越えるっていう
It's
か
about overcoming that
最後まで走
dimensional
ってみた
wall,
ら
like
全く違う
running
ルール
until
で
you
でき
reach
た
the
世界
end
があ
where
って
you'll find a
その
world
ルールを
with
学んじゃった
completely
って
different
とこじゃ
rules from ours. That's the only way you can, well, learn it.
前に魔術
I
に
told you
限界はない
before
って
that
言ったでしょ
magecraft has no limits,
あれ
right?
は人知の及ぶ
Well, I
範囲に
meant that
限
it
界
has
が
no
ない
limits within the scope of human knowledge.
対して魔
Meanwhile,
法は限界がある
magic
って
has lots of
っていう
limits.
か一つのこ
Actually,
とし
it
かで
can
きな
only
いけ
do
ど
one
そ
thing
れも
and
当
one
然
thing
だ
alone.
だって
Makes sense,
こ
right?
の宇宙の仕
I
組み
mean,
か
we're
ら
talking
仲間
about
外れの
unique,
一つ
rule
っき
breaking
りの盲点
concepts
なん
and
だから
mechanisms that exist outside the boundaries of the very universe.
魔術より魔法
So,
の方がすごい
magic is more
というの
amazing
は
than
流れ
magecraft.
的にわかるんだけど
I think I get the general idea, but
限界だらけ
it's really limited?
限界っていうか
Kinda.
特例
It's
特権
more like an
特権の類
exception,
ね
a special privilege or an abuse of power.
汎用性はないけど
It's
誰に
not
もできないことを
versatile,
可
but
能
in
とする
making
時
the
点で
impossible
魔術世
possible,
界にとって
it's
は
all
万能とされる
powerful as far as magecraft is concerned.
そもそも魔法は根源の渦にた
Magic
どり
is
着い
like
た
a
魔術
reward
師への
a
ご褒美
mage
みたい
gets
な
when
もの
reaching
で
the swirl of the
たと
root,
えその術者に魔法を
and
使う
that
だけの
even
肉
goes
体
for
性能がな
mages
く
who
て
don't
も
possess the metal to
根源
wield
の
it.
パスができただけで
Just making a
魔術的
path
に
to
は
the
やり
root
たい
gives
放題
them
って
free
だ
reign
け
to use it, in magecraft terms. True magic is very strict, but very powerful. Yes, exactly. That's why the magics are numbered, but nobody's brought that up yet, so I won't talk about it.
要は地球で
In
一番の
short,
お金持ちになる
it's
っ
like
てこと
becoming the richest person in the world. Sojiro made an appreciative sound, impressed. On the other hand, Alice looked as though she wished to make many revisions to Aoko's account.
一番の大
The
金
richest person in the world.
じゃあ
In which case, doesn't it mean that no matter how rich you are, only the richest person gets to have magic?
まあそういうこと
I guess so, sure.
時々とんでもない角度で
Sometimes you
確
sure
信を
get
つく
right.
ねこいつ
Sometimes you sure get to the right conclusion from the weirdest of
同じル
places.
ート同じ方法
It's
で
like
根
you
源
said,
に
there
た
are
どり
many
着くが
routes and theories to reach the root, but
一番目じゃないと魔法には
unless you're the
たどり着けない。
first to the post, magic will elude you.
どんなに優れていても
No matter how
二番
good
目
you
以降
are,
の意味
if
が
you're
ない
not the first, you're everyone else.
魔法使いが5人
There are only 5,
4人か
no, 4 magicians. There are only 4 because once that path to the root has been taken by one magician, it's closed off to all others. But it wasn't always like that in ancient times. Ironically, mankind is responsible for closing off the paths to the root. We've built walls that stand between us and the truth. The mages of old could never have imagined that the more we explored the unknown, the more paths we would seal off. But the result was exactly that. By the time they realized it, it was too late. After all that studying, true magic has all but disappeared from the world. Huh. So it's kind of like how the city has dwarfed the countryside then. In a microscopic sense, that example works. So, up until recently, modern mages have been vying for that final seat in a game of magical musical chairs, but some country bumpkin snapped it a while ago, so their little race is over. After that, all further research into the root was limited to mundane and meaningless magecraft. Though only a small fraction of mages were chasing magic anyway, while the rest had already thrown in the towel. Magic gained from reaching the swirl of the root isn't necessarily a mage's only goal. But that's a whole other convoluted mess in itself. The chicken or the egg dilemma, if you will. Okay. Well, at least I understand that I understand absolutely nothing. Do you mind if we get to the point? Oh, right. How can there be multiple wielders of true magic if only the first one there can learn it? Well, there were 5 at one time. There were 5 final tasks left to humanity, so the first... Aoko. Right, to the point. Now that I've explained the relationship between magecraft and magic, I can finally talk about my family. Remember when I mentioned that the Aozaki family has been mages for generations? Our history isn't ancient, but we've been blessed with good luck and talent. Because somehow or another, an Aozaki finally attained true magic. Hold on just a second. Aozaki, so you mean... I'm an apprentice mage, nothing more. I can't wield magic, nor do what I want to. I'm just the successor to the Aozaki family. Aoko asserted obtusely, her voice devoid of emotion. She became a mage not to wield magic, but simply because the succession of her family's magecraft was forced on her. Anyway, in order to reach the swirl of the root, generations upon generations of mages have had to dedicate their lives to research. Since every special snowflake is trying a unique approach and doesn't want to share, it obviously takes forever. At any rate, you can't create magic unless you have the innate ability to, or through some sort of divine intervention. Just making it to the root isn't enough. If you lack a worthy heir to pass it on to, the miracle stops there. So much for your lineage. That's why mages cultivate their bloodlines, to pass magical energy from one generation to the next, and to create an heir more powerful than oneself. Aoko wrapped up the explanation by remarking that it was like producing a thoroughbred. Not that Sojiro knew what a thoroughbred was to begin with, leaving him as perplexed at the end of the story as he was at the beginning. So mages pass along their uniquely created mystics to later generations, protecting their legacy in the process. And at the very end, they say that there should be an answer sufficient enough to satisfy all our questions. But you see, mages, no, magicians too, all understand one very important thing. their own generation and every single one thereafter will all die before they ever reach their ultimate goal. My grandfather always used to say that it was the destiny of those who obsess over mystics to end up learning only magecraft. Funny how my sister didn't turn out like that. She left "I Can See Why" hanging in the air. Alice had no response. The Aozaki family, passing down true magic. Aoko, the reluctant successor. And Toko Aozaki, her elder sister. Actually, my sister was the Aozaki heir. They told me about the family legacy, but I never had to learn any of it. For mage lineages, unless they're super rich, they usually only raise one heir. I guess that wasn't the case for an average income household like mine. Successors are supposed to be chosen based on their affinity for magecraft, and in that sense, my sister was definitely a prodigy. But her talent just wasn't fit for an heir for whatever reason. Instead, I turned out to be more suited to succeed it. And while I don't really agree with him, my grandfather seems dead set on switching it over to me during the winter when I was 15. To my sister, I suddenly stole her entire birthright, while not only being 4 years younger, but also lacking any magical knowledge. I see. So that's why. Toko had said that she was obligated to take what was Aoko's. He recalled how resentful her voice had been when she said it. I'm not her, so I don't know how she feels about the whole thing. It's been 3.5 years since she fought with grandfather, smashed her glasses, and left our home. No one has heard from her since then, and I became her replacement. I guess this is why we're squabbling. Sojiro thought the story was tragic, but Aoko's voice had a tone of relief in it. Sojiro did not know exactly who he should feel bad for anymore. She broke her glasses? Correct. Her eyesight has always been perfect. Bitch was even born with mystic eyes. But in trying to live up to our grandfather's expectations, she probably overdid it, and her eyes suffered as a result. Aoko wrestled with the memory, not sure if she had everything down exactly right. Sojiro knew how well Aoko could hide her emotions, and this was not one of those moments. You know, now that I think of it, was Toko just trying to give him a message? Why did she throw her glasses at my grandfather when she could have smoked him with a single fin shot? She was in her prime back then, so she could have wiped a senile old man out in an instant if she had wanted to. Sojiro shook his head, disappointed at Aoko's misjudgment of the situation. This isn't about any grudge. Those glasses, they were important to her. It was a symbol of all of her efforts that everyone could see. To break them like that, it must have been painful. Painful enough for her to feel like she had to break them. As Sojiro spoke, neither Aoko nor Alice noticed the grief he was fighting to hold in. Or, more accurately, they could not understand his point of view. After all, in a world where mages are raised to fight other mages, empathy was in short supply. I wonder why she chose to come back now. Like Aoko said, Toko could have taken Misaki City any time she wanted to. That's right. If she wanted this land so badly, she should have come back 3 years ago, killed me, and reclaimed her rights.
世間の荒波に揉まれて
Maybe
気
she
が変
had
わ
a
った
change
と
of
か
heart after seeing the world. I don't know.
違う
You really
青
don't
崎は
get
本
it,
当
do
に
you,
わからないの
Aozaki?
か
Sojiro shook with a faint anger. His voice changed from the boy they thought they knew.
何よ
Oh,
あ
when
ん
you
たなら
do?
わかるっていうの
誰だってわかる
Yes, like anyone would.
東子さんは
Toko was waiting for you to become a fully fledged mage, so that you would lose the same thing that was stolen from her.
大切なものをなくさせる
That's
た
how
めに
deep her hurt and
そう
hatred
しないと
goes.
どうにもならないそこまでしなくちゃいけないほどあの人の怒りは深かったんだ
Sojiro gazed at them, wondering why they could not see what he could. Only he was the one who did not understand. The two girls, and above all, Toko Aozaki, deny themselves the type of relationship that other normal people are allowed to experience. Toko's actions were not fueled by hatred. While there certainly was hatred behind them, the real reason was and always has been Toko's pursuit of true magic. She was an ambitious and talented mage. Her hatred was only her veneer. Thinking of her in any other way would be an insult to the elder sister who devoted her life to the study of magecraft. All of this Aoko wanted to tell Sojiro, but instead stopped herself. Even if she had, Sojiro was not a mage and could never understand. And besides, arguing with him any further would not have brought her any joy. She could not have put into words, even if she had tried. And so,
やけに姉貴の肩を
you
持つ
sure
じゃな
are
い
taking
宗
her
次郎
side a lot, Sojiro.
もしかして一目惚
Could
れ
it
でもした
be love at first sight? In her own cowardly way, Aoko dodged the subject. She smirked childishly.
肩ぐらい持つ
I get how she feels a little.
かわ
I
い
pity
そう
her.
な人だからな
Sojiro did not take the bait. Aoko was frustrated at his reply.
なぜ
And why, might I ask? An icy glare replaced her smile. He did not falter, only plainly stating,
だって実の妹と争わなくちゃいけない
because she has to fight her only sister.
それはかわいそうなことじゃないの
That's sad, isn't it? This was the source of his frustration.
確かに
It's sad, all right. Aoko's eyes narrowed unconsciously, as if hiding from a painful truth. This guy is a poison, she thought to herself. A poison with no antidote. With his words, he was unwittingly bringing her weakness to light.
だけど私も姉貴も
My
そ
sister
れを
and
何
I,
とも思ってないのよ
we don't think of it in that way, though.
だってそれ以
To
外に
us,
解
this
決
was
策はないんだ
always
か
the
ら
way it would turn out. Sojiro looked down and frowned in defeat. And that's sad too, he muttered. The curtain of night had already fallen. Not even an hour had passed since Toko left the estate, and Sojiro was feeling the distance between him and the girls. Aoko and Alice felt much the same way about Toko Aozaki, who seemed more elusive than a phantom.
とにかく姉貴
Anyway,
が敵だってことは宗次郎にも分か
Sojiro,
った
you
で
at
しょ
least understand that she's
な
our
らつ
enemy,
べこべ
right?
言わず
If
君
so,
子
stop
危うきに
arguing
近
with
寄ら
me
ず
and let sleeping bears lie.
まあ
Although
姉貴も
after
あんたと会
meeting
って
you, she must have
私
realized
たち
that
と
you
は
have
全
nothing
く
to
の
do
無
with
関係
us.
だって分かっただ
So
ろう
I
から
doubt we need to worry
そっ
about
ち
her
には
going
手を出
after
して
you.
こないでしょうけど
Aoko seemed absolutely certain in her assessment, as if to proclaim that Sojiro had dodged a bullet. Strangely, she was placing her trust in her enemy's sense of reason.
そうか
Really?
そうなの
Are you sure about that?
そうだといいんだけどな。
I hope you're right.
そうだから安心な
Really?
さい。
So relax.
昔からいら
She
ないも
never
の
paid
に
any
は手を出さ
attention
な
to
いんだ
things that were of no use to her anyway.
そっか。
Okay.
青崎がそこまで言う
If
な
you
ら
say so, Aozaki, then that's good enough for me.
あ、
Oh,
いらな
right.
いものって言えば、
Speaking of things she has no use for, Toko took your teacup. The nice savory one. She did
ちょっ
what?
と待ってあんた
And you just stood by and let her?
そうだけど。
I did. So she really was stealing after all, huh?
って言ったのか。
Sojiro nodded sagely, while Aoko fumed. She wondered where his serious manner and tone had gone. Sojiro's frustrating absent-mindedness had returned.
しかもセーブルのカップ
It
っ
had
て
to be the savory cup
私の
too.
一番の
My
お気に入
favorite
り
one. Aoko's fist trembled violently, but as much as she wanted to, she knew better than to plant it into Sojiro's carefree face. Not that he was even capable, but even if Sojiro did try to stop Toko, it would have gone tragically for him.
仕方ないか
Nothing to do now, I guess.
よく私
She
の持ち
always
物を
did
奪
have
って
a
い
habit
った
of
っけ
stealing my things.
他人のものを欲しがる
Always
癖
wanting what others
まだ
have.
治ってないんだ
I guess old habits die hard.
子供の
Isn't
頃
everybody
は
like that as
みん
children?
なそうなんじゃないのか。
He wondered aloud, curiously.
そうかな
Maybe.
私のクレヨンとか人形と
So
か
many of
買
my
っても仕
crayons
方な
and
いと思う
dolls,
けど
she took as she
どうせ
pleased
粉々にしちゃうん
and
だし
broke them too. Sojiro felt his heart jump into his mouth. The ominous foreshadowing was not lost on him.
それはどう
Why do you think that was?
だからあの人って
Because she
私
made
の
a
持ち物
hobby
を
out of
横取
taking
りし
my
てはぶっ
property
壊
and
すのが趣
smashing
味
it
な
to
のよ
pieces, obviously.
苦節14年
Once she had her eye on
姉貴に
something,
目
I
を
had
つ
to
けられ
kiss it
て無事だったものなん
goodbye.
て一つもないもの
Listening to Aoko, Sojiro recalled his conversation with Toko. He hoped he was imagining it, but he vaguely recalled her declaring Sojiro Shizuki as someone's property.
それは
That
ちょっと
is troubling. Sojiro's face turned grim, not unlike a detective at the scene of a crime. A scene which left no traces of evidence or clues as to how the case could be solved.
でしょひどい
Right?
姉貴なのよ
She was a terrible sister, the worst. Unaware of Sojiro's turmoil, Aoko calmly sipped her tea. Sojiro watched as Aoko shrugged her shoulders before looking over to the drawing room clock. No matter how heavy the mood, time kept on ticking.
明日から
Gloomy days ahead, I guess. Muttered the undeniable victim of today's injustices. Aoko looked ready to move on from the incident, adding,
そうね
Probably.
でも今はそんなこと
Right
より
now,
今日
I'm
の
just
夕
looking
飯の
forward
が
to
楽しみなんだ
tonight's dinner.
私
Alice seemed to second that opinion with her silence. Comfortable and relaxed, neither of them seemed to have any intention of leaving the sofa to prepare food. Tonight was supposed to be his night off from work. At least until midnight. But Sojiro knew that until the clock struck midnight, he would be serving on hand and foot the two ladies of the house. For one, it would take at least another hour to prepare something to eat. And there was no way the exhausted Aoko and Alice would stand for that, so the only other option in the end was to have something delivered.
なんと
Maybe I should have taken Toko up on her offer after all.
俺
Sojiro opened his wallet as he second-guessed his situation. His eyes settled on the third and final 10,000 yen bill in his wallet. It stared back at him forlornly, reluctant to leave its home. With a heavy heart, he bid it farewell. And with that, we have finally reached the end of our chapter. Stream ran a little bit long because I had to take a little bit of a break early on there, so I appreciate you bearing with me. Let me close the game. I hope you guys enjoy playing around with your little stream avatars. I will work on that a little bit more, probably over the coming days. Kind of make it a bit more of a robust system. And also, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and use green for the color. I'll figure something out. Try and get as few models as possible to be partly transparent. Anyway, thank you all for joining me, and I hope that you will be back around tomorrow for a few readings from Bullfinch's mythology, as well as some assorted storytelling and discussion of mythology as we have here. My mental state is sated, mystic eyes, and true magic in one day. Fuck yeah. Literature Club Wednesday, yes, we'll be reading Doki Doki Literature Club Plus on Wednesday. My favorite part was when Alka said, "Wow, it seems my sister really was a witch on the holy night." Don't get ahead of yourself, because one of the last chapters is titled, you guessed it, Witch on the Holy Night. And remember, several hours ago when they mentioned that it was a few days before Christmas? Turns out you were right about that too. The Witch on the Holy Night was in fact referencing the Holy Night, Christmas. Anyway, let me take a moment here. There is somebody specific I had in mind to raid tonight. I don't know if he's live. Yes, he is. Okay. Oh fuck, a battle royale. We're gonna pause the raid until the battle royale is up. We're holding. I'm holding. I'm locked and loaded. One more for the road. Hell yeah. I also see that you've evolved from Entei into Raikou. A shiny one at that. Entei was always my favorite. Entei and Suicune, I think, are I don't know. Raikou's unfortunately number 3 on the list. Don't like the new forms though. You choose to be shiny, yeah. Yeah. You got. It's a secondary. It's a secondary option, yeah. The only one of the new forms from Scarlet and Violet that I like is Entei's, because I like Ceratopsids. They're cool looking. Holy shit! It's Krim, the only human fucking character. Get fucked. Let's go! The Krim has won the battle. Alright. Now that that's over and done with, tonight we're going to be rating a VTuber I found on Blue Sky. Blue Sky is I'll just call it a Twitter alternative. A lot of, just recently opened up to the public. You can follow me on there. I should have the same username that I have here and on Twitter. It's Colin the Redleaf. That's me. Eric Van Nicholas is a VTuber. He's a small VTuber that I found on Blue Sky not too long ago, and I was immediately taken by his design and his aesthetic. And when I visited his Twitch streams, I found that he in fact does the same thing that I do. That is reading live on stream. So, with that said, we're going to go say hi to Eric Van Nicholas, and he should be, if I recall correctly, he's currently reading through Jurassic Park. I don't know how far in the book he is, but let's go say hi and find out. I'm very excited. I've absolutely wanted to check out some of his reading streams because it thrilled me to find somebody who also does live reading regularly on stream. So I'm very excited. I definitely need to take a break because we've been going for quite a long time. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what Eric has for us. So without any further ado, off.